One Piece, Heaven Defying, Awakening the Dark Lord Part 2. Steelbone Kong himself was unwilling to believe it. But the more you don't believe it, the more likely it is to be true. Zhang Guo's shock had gradually subsided, and he spoke to comfort them. Don't worry, if Kaseyun is really an unprecedented monster, then I'm afraid it won't be long before we have a chance to fight. But that day better not come. If the information is true, Kaseyun is the next Rox. We must not give him time to grow up. The sooner we get rid of him, the better. Zhang Guo's expression was solemn and his words were murderous. Steelbone Sora showed appreciation and nodded in agreement. What Sengoku said is right. No matter how talented this Yun is, he has now become a cadre of the Rox pirates, and is a great threat to Marine. And at this pirate banquet, he killed all his competitors. It can be seen that his brutality and cruelty are no less than Rox. I summoned you here so that you can remember this person. Once you meet him, kill him at all costs. There must not be another Rox in the sea. If Yuan knew he was being described like this, he would have fought back even if he had all his strength. After hearing Cyborg's order, Garp and Zephyr's expressions became slightly more serious. I understand. As long as I meet this guy, it doesn't matter how long he has been practicing. I have practiced the Iron Fist for decades anyway, Garp said murderously. But I still didn't take it seriously in my heart. In his opinion, he was just a genius with a bounty of only tens of millions, so there was no need to mobilize such a large force. If Laozi sees him, he will be brought back. Zifa nodded in response. The no-kill, General, Black Arm Zephyr. No one could have imagined that Zifa would become an extreme person who wanted to destroy the world in the future. What on earth is Rox trying to do? He keeps recruiting pirates, and his actions have become more and more frequent recently. Vice Admiral Tsuru sighed helplessly, his delicate face full of worry. None of those monsters are easy to deal with. Zifa snorted, looking unhappy, as if he had suffered a loss. Ha ha ha, come to think of it, Roger's reputation is growing. Garp thought of something and laughed, slapping his head. Zhang Guo complained angrily. How dare you say that, you bastard? If you hadn't messed around last time, the Roger pirates would have been surrounded and might have captured him. Ha ha ha, Zhang Guo, you underestimated that guy. Roger can't be dealt with by outnumbering others. If Laozi hadn't taken action in advance, those marine fleets would have suffered heavy casualties. Garp was not angry either, still laughing. A little solemn. The absolute overlord of the Rox pirates, and the strongest rising star of the Roger pirates. These two pirate groups gave Marine a lot of headaches. Okay, let's talk about the Rox pirates. Why bring up the Roger pirates? Steelbone Sora said in a deep voice. Xiaohe, go and issue a wanted order for Kaseyun. Huh! Issuing a wanted order now. Won't it expose the undercover agent? Lieutenant General, he was surprised and asked immediately. Gangu said confidently. Don't worry, just issue a wanted order. It's urgent to eliminate this Kaseyun as soon as possible and prevent him from growing up. How much is the reward? 500 million. Gangu-kun pondered for a moment and blurted out. 500 million? Isn't that too high? Zhang Guo said in disbelief. You know, even Charlotte Linlin, the Born Destroyer, had to go through several upgrades before reaching a bounty of 500 million. The bounty is already higher now, but at least it wasn't that scary at the beginning. 500 million! Zephyr and Garp were startled, finally realizing that Cyborg Sung was not joking and was really afraid of this young man named Kaseyun. Steelbone Sora sighed. Charlotte Linlin and Kaido were not allowed to grow up because we did not pay enough attention to them. There have been many such things in recent years. Even if there is only a possibility, we must kill it. I don't want to see the next Charlotte Linlin and Kaido. I don't want to see the next Rox either. Moved by Kong Gangu's determination, everyone looked solemn. Yes. Fleet Admiral. Yoon immediately became Marine's top kill target. Because the others are too difficult to kill, and he is the only newcomer with very weak strength. But a reward of 500 million, would definitely cause a sensation. That afternoon, Beehive Island. Yuen was wrapped in bandages, but his injuries had almost healed. The cellular phagocytosis technique strengthens the body at the cellular level, and at the same time, the self-healing ability is continuously enhanced. In the future, it may reach a terrifying level, a super healing effect. Originally, he was drinking and eating meat with Kaido, but when he saw the bounty falling from the sky, Yuen could no longer laugh. "Oh, ha ha ha! The bounty is the glory of a pirate, why do you look so unhappy?" Kaido laughed loudly. Not only did he not show any intention of comforting others, but he seemed to be gloating over their misfortune. He seemed very happy to see Yuen being humiliated. "Depend on!" Yuen held his own wanted poster in his hand. The bright red words, 500 million, made him want to curse. "What are you laughing at? I attended a pirate party last night, and today the Marine Wanted order has spread across the sea. Don't you think there's something wrong?" Although the appearance of Yuen on the wanted poster is a sketch, it is not much different from the real person. Kaido's laughter stopped abruptly, his eyes widened, and he seemed to finally realize the seriousness of the problem. "Are there Marine spies on the island?" Kaido, who realized it belatedly, suddenly woke up. He had never thought of this possibility. But what is happening now speaks volumes. What else? Can Marine predict the future? There's King 500 million bounty on Laozi's head. Why don't they just go and rob him? Yuen was furious. I wanted to develop myself, but in the pirate base, my exact information was still known by Marine. What a cumba! Your base is under surveillance by Marine. Actually, you don't need to worry too much. It's normal for so many pirates to have 2 spies. Kaido hesitated for a moment and spoke slowly. I don't know whether he was comforting Yuen or comforting himself. Yuen curled his lips, but had a different opinion in his mind. Being able to set his bounty at 500 million, it is obvious that Marine knows a lot of things that ordinary pirates simply cannot access. Those who knew the real situation at that time were all the cadres on the stage. Of course, we cannot rule out the possibility that someone got the information from cadres, but the possibility is very low. As it concerns his own safety, Yuen's heart is filled with alarm. If there really is an undercover agent among the cadres, then wouldn't it be very convenient for them to kill me? Who could it be? Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Lin Lin, Kaido are absolutely impossible. John, Achaku is unlikely, and Silveraxe doesn't seem likely either. Fire, Flower, Stutz, Shaki and other officers are all confirmed pirates, only those few unfamiliar faces. Fishman, Bodhi. Four-handed, Chris. Will. Raz. Yuen immediately had a suspect in his mind and even wanted to catch the undercover immediately. Kaido saw that Yuen was eager to kill the undercover agent, and couldn't help but say, "There is no way. Even if we know there is an undercover agent, it is difficult to find him. How can we investigate such a large pirate group? Are you still suspicious of the cadres? If it is a cadre, it would be even harder to confirm. Those guys have ulterior motives, and it's impossible to get them." Kaido seemed to approve of Yuen, and couldn't help but say something from his heart. "I advise you to stop meddling in other people's business. The captain doesn't care about these things at all. What he needs is everyone's support. Even undercover agents can only follow his orders honestly. Anyone who disobeys will be killed by the captain. So he doesn't care even if some information is leaked." "Superior." Kaido lowered his voice and spoke carefully. He seemed to be reminding Yuen something in a subtle way. Aren't you afraid of information leaks? What if Marine knows about any action in advance? Aren't you afraid of the whole team being wiped out?" Yuen wondered. Kaido shook his head. "I don't know, no one knows what the captain is thinking." "Well," Yuen sighed, sat down again, and looked at his own comments on the wanted poster. "Brutal and cruel, killing people like crazy. I really can't hold it anymore. Marine, right? I'll remember you. When I see you again, I'll make sure you know what true brutality and cruelty are, and how to kill people without hesitation." Yuan threw away his wanted warrant, deciding to out of sight, out of mind. Yuan silently kept Kaido's reminder or kindness in mind. Kaido was just short of directly expressing that he didn't trust rocks. Of course, Yuan couldn't say this clearly. We are all smart people, so it's enough for us to know it clearly. Kaido, here's a bowl for you. Please take good care of me in the future. If anything happens in the future, I will definitely stand by you. After a moment's hesitation, Yuan immediately picked up the wine bowl. Kaido's eyes lit up, and he immediately understood what Yuan meant, and laughed. Okay. Take good care of me. Pop. 2 wine bowls, one large and one small, collided. Witness Yuan making his first nominal friend. Kaido didn't know what was wrong with him, but he felt that Yuan was very unusual, so he wanted to make friends with him. Fortunately, Yuan's performance did not disappoint him. The alliance front has been initially established. Just like him and Charlotte Lin. It would be much easier to have an ally among this group of people with different thoughts. Yuan ate meat in big mouthfuls, madly absorbing energy to strengthen his body. But he still hadn't forgotten about the undercover work. If he doesn't catch this undercover, he won't be able to sleep or eat. The bounty shows how much Marine values it. If Marine were to go all out and kill me even at the cost of sacrificing the undercover, I would be at a huge loss. Yuan is well aware of what his talent means. How many people will be afraid of me? That's why he accepted Kaido's kindness without hesitation. As to whether it is reliable, we will have to wait and see. But at least I feel more at ease with Kaido Yuan. Although this guy is also very cruel, he disdains to do mean things and does everything openly and above board, which makes people have nothing to say. If I don't like you, I'll F***ck you. What can you do? Not long after, Charlotte Lin came over. Mama! How dare you cheat on me behind my back? She joined the eating battle without hesitation, but glanced at Yuan with a half-smile in her eyes. Marine really values you, kid. They directly offered a bounty of 500 million. The bounties Kaido and I offered at the beginning were not even half of yours. It's really impressive. Charlotte Lin's words pierced Yuan's bleeding heart. Okay, I admit that Golden Lion recruited me, but I had no choice. Should I just reject him? Then how can I still live? Yuan explained helplessly and apologized for what happened before. Then you dared to reject me? Charlotte Lin questioned. I didn't refuse you. Yuan spread his hands, shrugged his shoulders and said, I had no choice at the time. You are all aware of the situation. If the captain hadn't asked, I think you would have killed 2 of your officers before you could do that. Give up. It seems to make some sense. Charlotte Lin actually no longer cares about what happened before. She only has one thought now. Mama, when will you give birth to a baby with me? Puff! When faced with Charlotte Lin's direct question, Yuan burst out laughing. I looked up at the beautiful but huge body in disbelief. My throat was extremely dry, and I hurriedly explained. That? Lin, did you misunderstand something? I didn't say I wanted to have a baby with you, that's not beyond discussion. Seeing Charlotte Lin's fierce eyes was inexplicably frightening. Yuan quickly changed his words. You see, my injury is not healed yet, let's talk about it after I recover. A delaying tactic. Must slow down. Is that so, Yuan? You'd better keep your word. Charlotte Lin sat down slowly, and the feeling of oppression gradually dissipated. The threat in the words made Yuan feel a chill on his back and Kuan air went limp. Kaido couldn't help laughing. Lin, Yuan will spend a lot of time with us in the future, so there's no need to rush to have a baby. It seemed like a joke, but it was a subtle hint about Yuan joining the alliance. When Charlotte Lin heard this, she was stunned at first, then she looked at Kaido. Sensing the reminder in Kaido's eyes, she showed a look of sudden realization, and her smile became more intense. In this way, having 2 or 3 children does not seem to be a problem. Yuan ate meat silently, and a question popped up in his mind. Isn't it true that giving birth is very debilitating? Why didn't anyone take advantage of the opportunity? Time passes quietly. Yuan once approached Rocks for advice. Just like Kaido said, Rocks doesn't care about the undercover matter at all. This made Yun feel fucked up. It is more urgent to improve strength. I only do 3 things every day. 1. Eat. 2. Practice with Kaido. 3. Avoid Charlotte Linlin. Eating is a crazy way to absorb energy. Practicing with Kaido is a process of madly improving strength and speeding up energy digestion. Of course, I avoid Charlotte Linlin because I don't want to have a baby with her. Who wants to be a stud? Such a fulfilling life. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. That day, Yun had just finished eating a huge amount of food and walked out of the cafeteria when he ran into the Golden Lion Shiki. What a coincidence, let's go! Captain Rocks has called the meeting and is ready for action. Shiki showed a look of surprise and then called out. Seeing that Golden Lion had no intention of pursuing the matter, Yun immediately felt relieved and asked, Do I want to participate in the operation? That's right, the captain specifically asked you to participate. Don't worry, we are just going to destroy a kingdom. You have the strength to protect yourself. The Golden Lion Shiki said carelessly. In his mouth, destroying a kingdom is as easy as finding a place to pee. Destroy a kingdom! Yun's expression froze. War is coming. The kingdom of Nerid. Suddenly, they were attacked by pirates. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! It's the Rocks Pirates flag! Oh my God! Quickly report to the king! Bullshit! Hurry up and inform Marine! That's Charlotte Linlin, Kaido, John, Silver Axe. They're all done for. They're all killer pirates! As soon as the Rocks Pirates ship appeared, the kingdom of Nerid fell into panic. The tiny figure next to Kaido was not noticed by the kingdom's soldiers. It was Yun. This operation is to rob. As for pirates, how can they be called thieves if they don't burn, kill, and plunder? Yun could do nothing about it, especially since he was partly responsible for it. Because he eats so much, he eats more food in one day than all the cadres combined. After absorbing a huge amount of energy from a large amount of food and sublimating his body, his strength has become extremely terrifying. At least now Yun can carry a bounty of 500 million. As Yun's strength increased, he mastered the new 2.0 version of Self-Phage technique, which added a super healing ability that could quickly heal physical injuries. At the same time, food is devoured and energy is absorbed more rapidly. Iron Balloon mastered to the 2nd stage, great success. Swords and bullets are useless to Yun now. And the power is surprisingly great. The Darkin King, a mythical beast, is becoming more and more proficient in using his abilities. However, Yun's Devil Fruit ability has never been revealed. When you go out, you always have to hide your tricks. Mama! Yun, have you been avoiding me all this time? Charlotte Linlin lowered her head and stared at Yun, her beautiful eyes filled with murderous intent. Charlotte Linlin was very angry because her request to have a child had not been met. I have been busy practicing during this period, and I will return after completing the mission, Yun explained with a smile. The delaying tactic is beginning to show results. Yun felt that with the speed at which his strength was increasing, it wouldn't be long before he wouldn't be afraid of Charlotte Linlin anymore. We are all steel balloons, who is afraid of who? You can firmly refuse unreasonable requests for having children. Really? You can't escape when you go back this time. Charlotte Linlin gritted her teeth. She realized that Yun seemed to be lying to her again. But it's not a good idea to do this now as we are on a mission. Kaido, who was standing by, took a sip from the wine gourd and looked at Yun with a look of incomprehensible suspicion. He didn't understand how Yun practiced. I fight with Yun every day, and the amazing thing is that his strength improves a lot every day. Kaido no longer dares to be careless in the fight now. This left him puzzled. Let me tell you, the shells are coming, and you still have the mind to complain? John laughed strangely, then ignored others, drew out the rapier from his waist and rushed out first. If he hadn't been thinking about the treasure, John, such a cunning man, wouldn't have rushed to the front. Charlotte Linlin stared at John's back and snorted coldly, then rushed out with Kaido. Silver Axe saw them all rushing out, turned his head to look at Yuan, and asked, "What do you say? Stay in command or go ashore and fight?" Yuan twisted his neck and said, "Forget about the command. Just do it yourself." After saying that, he rushed out, and his speed was not inferior to Kaido and the others. Yoon started to get excited. Finally, I have the chance to harvest shadows. I will never miss such a good opportunity. Only by storing enough shadows can the power of the mythical beast, the Dark King, be brought into full play. This kid seems to have gotten much stronger. How did he train? Silver Axe muttered quietly, looking puzzled. Yoon was no longer in the mood to care about other people's opinions. The moment he stepped onto the battlefield, he was surrounded by the sound of fighting. Artillery fire continued to fall from the city walls, resounding and chaotic. His shadow quietly separated from his body at some point, and wandered around in the darkness like a lion majesty. Wherever Shadow Yun passed, he cut the shadows of the soldiers of the kingdom of Nerid into their original bodies, and with the use of the shadow contract technique, they all became shadows that he could use. As for the soldiers who lost their shadows, there was nothing unusual, and they did not die when exposed to the light. The biggest difference between the mythical beast species, Dark King, and the shadow fruit is that this shadow is separated from the main body and will be completely separated from the main body without causing any impact. Because even if the host dies, the shadow is still available. It can be said that there are both advantages and disadvantages, and a two-way impact. The wandering shadows gradually gathered in Yun's Shadow Kingdom. Yun quietly accumulated strength like this without making any sound. Kaido rushed to the front and broke open the city gate with his huge body. The kingdom of Nerid has almost lost its ability to resist. Hundreds of pirates behind him broke through the defense line. It was a completely unbalanced battle. Yuan didn't make much move and just focused on collecting shadows. With enough shadows, his strength can be raised to a higher level. Boom! Yuan kicked open the door of the kingdom's treasury, revealing a large amount of jewels. He quickly scanned with his spiritual sense, but didn't find anything precious, such as devil fruits, so he couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. But then John rushed in with a group of pirates. When John saw the treasures, his eyes lit up. He was particularly fond of treasure, and even Buggy later kept thinking about his treasure map, which shows how much wealth he had collected. But when John saw Yuan, he was obviously stunned. But he immediately turned around and ordered, "Boys, take all these treasures away." As he spoke, it was as if Yuan didn't exist. Yuan frowned and a faint voice sounded. "John, I discovered this place first. Each of them can keep half of the treasure they obtain for their own squad, and the rest can be given to the pirate group as public funds. This is what Rox stipulates. We are all pirates, so we have to fight for what we need. Anyway, Rox doesn't care about treasure. If it's gone, he'll just go out and rob. He never cares who takes more or less. So, if John took all the treasure away, he would get half of it. But it stands to reason. Whatever was discovered by Yuan first should belong to him. But he had no men under his command and could not take away the treasure. Yuan knew it himself and didn't want to fight for it, but John's attitude made him extremely unhappy. John raised his eyebrows and said nonchalantly, "What's wrong with you finding it first? If you have the guts, why don't you take them all away?" At this time, all the people in the treasury belonged to John, so he simply stopped pretending and didn't give Yuan any face at all. Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a hint of danger, and said softly, "It seems you have a lot of opinions about me." As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere around them suddenly became somewhat solemn. John grinned nonchalantly. "Ha ha ha, you said that yourself." But his hand slowly clenched the rapier. "I advise you not to be ungrateful, otherwise don't blame me for being rude." John threatened, his smile becoming more sinister. "He loves money like his life, how could he give these treasures to Yuan? You try it!" Yuan suddenly became domineering, and a blue light flashed across. John has been famous for a long time, but how could Yuan tolerate such provocation? Get ready to take action right now. Even if he cannot defeat John, As long as he can hold out until Kaido and Linlin arrive, John might really have to stay here forever. In the darkness, Shadow Yuan hides quietly, ready to strike at any time. Nearly 100 shadows in Shadowlands also began to stir. "Oh? I want to see what confidence you have to challenge me." John drew out his rapier, looking at him with disdain. Even Rox acknowledged that Yuan was a genius, but he had only been practicing for a short time, so John did not take him seriously. It seemed that a war was about to break out. There was sudden chaos outside. "It's the Marines! The Marines are surrounding this place. That's Daibutsu Sengoku and Black Arm Zephyr. Oh no, Garp is here too. Oh no, we've been tricked. The Marine is ambushing us. Let's go!" The chaotic shouting made Yuan and John stop what they were doing involuntarily. John's face suddenly became gloomy. He glanced at Yuan and turned to walk out. "Send as much as you can onto the boat. Laozi, go out and take a look." Garp, Sengoku, and Zephyr all showed up, and anyone could feel that things were not that simple. Yuan's mind raced, and he became more alert. He was the one who felt the worst. It was clearly a normal operation, and it was announced suddenly. How could Marine gather Garp, Sengoku, and Zephyr to appear at the same time? Even dogs won't believe you if you say there's no problem. Shit! Isn't it coming for me? When this thought came to his mind, Yuan felt more and more uncertain. But he had no choice but to go out and face it. When Yuan rushed outside, a large number of marine fleets were approaching in the distance. Fighting has broken out on the coast. Garp, Sengoku, and Zephyr took the lead. "All Marines, listen up! Surround all the pirates, and don't let any of them escape." Zephyr raised his arms and shouted, issuing combat orders. "Oh lol lol lol. Black Arm Zephyr. Thunderous 8 trigrams." As a battle maniac, Kaido was not afraid of such a situation at all. Instead, he rushed out without hesitation to face Zephyr, who was in the front. "Kaido! You can't escape this time." Zephyr's face darkened, and the armed color domineering aura suddenly surrounded his whole body, with an extremely deep luster. A punch was thrown, facing the thunderous 8 trigrams. The two figures were entangled together, and the surrounding marines and pirates could only keep retreating and were unable to get involved in the battle. On the coast, Silver Axe was entangled by Lieutenant General Marine and had difficulty escaping. "Charlotte Linlin, nice to see you again." Garp twisted his wrist and walked towards Charlotte Linlin step by step. Although there is a huge height difference, Garp seems to have the upper hand over Charlotte Linlin in terms of aura. Garp is now at his peak, and his strength is extremely terrifying. Even Charlotte Linlin is not as imposing as the carefree-looking Garp. "Mama! Garp, you Marine came so quickly." Charlotte Linlin smiled meaningfully. Being ambushed like this, Charlotte Linlin certainly knew that something was wrong. "Ha ha! Laozi will personally send you to underwater prison today." Garp laughed, and suddenly rushed out, so fast that it was difficult to catch with the naked eye. Boom! The violent fluctuations spread instantly. All the marines and pirates around were blown away by the shockwave. Charlotte Linlin took a few steps back, her eyes filled with murderous intent. "Go to hell!" Napoleon slashed down. Garp battles with Charlotte Linlin. It was obvious that Charlotte Linlin was at a disadvantage, and the strength of Garp at his peak was really hard to underestimate. Jean Guo was slow to move, looking around the battlefield as if he was looking for something. "Jean Guo!" John looked at Jean Guo from a distance. Just when he thought that Jean Guo would attack him, Jean Guo's attention shifted. "What is he looking for?" John wondered. Yuan quietly shuttled through the battlefield, but suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis. Seeing and hearing color divine consciousness warning. He looked up suddenly. His eyes were suddenly filled with golden light. A huge Buddha shining with golden light fell from the sky and blocked his way. "Kasa Yun! Surrender!" The golden Buddha was furious and majestic, and the shocking sound of the Buddha's voice resounded like the sound of Buddha's voice. Yuan paused and subconsciously drew out blue flame, looking extremely alert, as if facing a formidable enemy. F***ck it. It's really coming for Lousy! Yoon yelled. The moment Marine showed up, Yoon felt something was wrong. Now that Zhang Gui has abandoned the entire battlefield situation and come to him, everything is self-evident. The undercover agent of the Rocks pirates informed Marine of this operation, which is why Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr were all dispatched. The goal is yourself. The Warring States period incarnated into the form of a giant Buddha, his body aglow with golden light, his face solemn, and his murderous intent extremely fierce. Shockwave! The golden Buddha raised his hand, and a dazzling white light shone from his palm. The dazzling light made Yuan subconsciously want to close his eyes, but the next moment he was enveloped by a wave of destruction. A destructive shock wave like a pure white beam of light blasted out. The air vibrated, and a deep groove was squeezed out of the ground, extending all the way to Yuan. Yuan's face changed drastically. Armament-colored divine armor. 10,000 shadow battle armor! The low roar seemed somewhat weak amid the roar of the shock wave. Without warning, dancing shadows appeared around Yuan, interweaving and merging with the armament-colored divine armor, and finally transformed into an extremely deep black shadow armor that enveloped Yuan. Wearing the armor, Yuan's strength suddenly increased dramatically. He held the blue flame in his hand to block in front of him, and the sword energy burst out, burning like a blue flame, resisting the destructive impact of the shock wave. Boom! The force of the shock wave caused something beside Yuan to explode. The roar echoed throughout the battlefield. Countless smoke and dust filled the air, making it difficult to see the scene. Kaido was horrified. How could Yuan withstand Sengoku's devastating blow? Damn it! Lousy is going to kill you today! Kaido's anger completely burst out, and his attacks became more and more crazy. Success? While Zephyr was fending off Kaido's attack, he was also keeping an eye on the battlefield of the Warring States period. Seeing Yuan being hit by the shock wave, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. How can a mere little ghost resist the shock wave of the Buddha? Even if he doesn't die, he will be seriously injured. Zephyr thought so in his heart. Bang! Charlotte Linlin, who had retreated several steps under Garp's iron fist attack, suddenly raised her head, with a strange pink glow in her eyes, and there seemed to be a special power flowing around her. You killed Yuan! Charlotte Linlin roared and screamed, and the sound that shook her soul made all the marines and pirates around her cover their ears in pain. Buzz! Charlotte Linlin is full of energy. Conqueror's domineering. Open! All of you go to hell! The entanglement is formed, and the slashing attack is launched. Before she had a child, Yuan died. Charlotte Linlin was very angry. It was all these damn marines who ruined her life. This crazy bitch! Garp muttered with a serious expression. Using the power of the Soul Fruit and Tyrant at the same time, plus the iron balloon, Charlotte Linlin is ready to go on a killing spree. Charlotte Linlin actually cares so much about Cassius? The big Buddha Zhang Gui frowned as he looked at Charlotte Linlin, who was bursting out with all her strength, muttered in confusion, then retracted his gaze to the smoke and dust in front of him, and walked forward step by step. He wanted to confirm whether Yuan was really dead. Even if he only had one breath left, he had to launch another shock wave. Buzz! Suddenly, a deep blue slash suddenly came out from the dense smoke and dust and landed on the golden body of the Buddha. Bang! There was a dull sound when they collided. The Buddha Zhang Gui took a step back out of habit, his face suddenly darkened, and he said in a low voice, Sure enough, he's not dead! Not only did he not die, the power of the slash was quite strong. Call! A figure suddenly rushed out from the smoke and dust. It was Yuan in the shadow armor. At this moment, only his face was exposed, and his eyes were cold and sharp, as if reflecting a raging rage. But the shadow armor on his body was severely damaged. Resisting the power of the shock wave just now consumed more than half of the shadow. Yuan didn't feel sorry for the shadows, but he wondered if he would really die under the shock wave if there were no shadows. Burning with anger. Whoever you are, Kill him first. Laozi will never die. Yuan was the first to strike with his sword, venting his anger. The big Buddha Zhangguo raised his arm to block the knife, his body remained unmoved, and a hint of surprise appeared on his solemn face. How could he withstand the shock wave without any injury? Zhangguo's eyes were suddenly filled with murderous intent. Marine's goal is to kill Yun. How could he let Yun live? The big Buddha on the side threw a punch with a strong sense of oppression, knocking Yun away with one punch. Yun rolled twice quickly, steadied himself, and stood up again. It seems that it is not impossible to fight. Not only did he not think about escaping, he also thought about fighting with Zhangguo. John! What are you still standing there for? Go stop Zhangguo! Kaido yelled at John from a distance. Among the cadres taking action at this time, only John can help Yun. I do want to, but these Marines are blocking me. I have to kill them all, right? John pretended to kill 2 Marine soldiers, appearing to be helpless. You! Kaido's eyes were spitting fire. John obviously doesn't want to help Yun and is stalling for time on purpose. Those trash Marines can't hurt John even if he stands still. Bang! Kaido was distracted and was hit hard in the chest by Zifa, forcing him to retreat several steps. Then he was punched in the cheek and knocked to the ground. Yun glanced at John coldly, and then immediately shouted at Kaido. Kaido! Deal with your own enemies! Don't worry about me, Laozi still has a way. Lin, Kaido, can you lend me your shadows? The words fell. Shadow Yun disappeared silently beside Yun. Huh! He's actually a user with special abilities. Zhangguo's eyes narrowed and he finally reacted. He originally thought that Yun was showing the armament hockey, but now it seems that it is not that simple. Shadow? What does he want with Kaido and Lin's shadow? A trace of doubt emerged in Zhangguo's mind. Charlotte Linlin acted madly, but when she saw that Yun was not dead, she regained a lot of rationality. When she heard that Yun wanted to borrow her shadow, she readily agreed. The same is true for Kaido. Neither of them refused. Next second, shadows flicker. Charlotte Linlin and Kaido's shadow were taken away by Shadow Yun and returned to Yun. Yun took a deep breath, and the light in his eyes became deeper. This is a new move he developed by developing his abilities. In order to perform this skill, the shadow host must not resist. Because he wants to use the power of host through the shadow. Shadow Yun returns to Yun's side. Next to him, 2 huge shadows gradually took shape. They were the shadows of Charlotte Linlin and Kaido. Next second, the 2 huge shadows actually merged into Yun's shadow like water. The shadow of Yun became visibly more muscular, and his figure gradually grew larger. Wait until the fusion is complete. Shadow Yun is much bigger than Yun himself. Yun took a deep breath, a fierce look flashing in his eyes. Although it will cause great damage to the body, I can't care so much. Shadow form. Accompanied by his low drink. Shadow Yun merges with himself again. It's just that Shadow Yun is much larger than himself, which will cause some changes. Yun clenched his fists and suddenly screamed. Not only the muscles, but even the bones seemed to be deformed, as if a new body was being rebuilt. The pain involved can be imagined. Normal shadow form isn't that painful. But it wouldn't be as powerful as it is now. It's a pity that Yun is unable to display his awakening form now. His body cannot withstand the awakening power. Otherwise, he would not have to endure such great pain. In the blink of an eye, Yun has completed the fusion with the shadow. But his appearance became strange, his muscles bulged high, and there were cracks on the exposed skin like broken ceramics, as if he was bursting from the inside. Yun's move of fusing other people's shadows with his own was even crazier than Moria eating his shadow. But there is only one benefit. He can gain great power. Counter the power of the warring states. The big Buddha Zhangguo looked at the strange scene that happened in front of him in an instant, and the shock in his heart was indescribable. What kind of move is this? He actually merged Charlotte Linlin and Kaido's shadow? Just at this moment, Yuan raised his head slightly, and his murderous gaze shocked Zhang Guo's heart. Bang! Next second, there was an explosion beneath Yuan's feet, and his figure has disappeared from the spot. The sky was filled with azure blue lights. The blue flame, wrapped in the armament-colored divine armor, chopped down at the Buddha's head, and the violent impact force even made Zhang Guo unable to open his eyes. This power has become so much stronger. As his mind raced, Zhang Guo raised his arm again to block the knife. Boom! The ground beneath the big Buddha Zhang Guo's feet suddenly collapsed after being hit, burying half of his body. What a powerful force! Zhang Guo's pupils contracted and his expression was extremely shocked. Just now, it couldn't shake me at all, but after fusing with the shadow, it was able to repel me? What kind of method is this? Zhang Guo was really shocked. What's this move, Yun? Kaido was also confused. I've been training with him for so many days, but I didn't know that Yun had such a ruthless move hidden in his mind. Zifa was stunned and exclaimed, What kind of monster is this kid? The half-human, half-ghost look is actually quite scary. He actually shook the great Buddha warring states. John stared with disbelief. He was unwilling to save Yuan, and even hoped that Yuan would die. However, he felt something was wrong with the strange behavior that Yuan suddenly displayed. These guys can't really compete with the great Buddha warring states, right? This weird boy. Garp was stunned and was also shocked by Yuan's change. Mama! What a surprise for me! Charlotte Linlin laughed and rushed towards Garp again. Since Yuan is not powerless to fight back, all I have to do is hold Garp back. Silver Axe, who was on the pirate ship in the distance, looked at this scene from afar, and screamed as if he had seen a ghost. What the hell? Yun can actually fight with Zhang Guo? Oh my god! Am I still dreaming? Only half a month had passed since the pirate banquet. How did Yun practice? Yuan's strange appearance at this time and the strength he displayed made everyone feel terrified. Zhang Guo himself was even more confused. Drink! With a roar, he stomped down suddenly. The huge Buddha's body leaped out from the pit that buried half of his body. However, as soon as Zhang Guo reached midair, he was attacked by Yuan. At this time, Yuan's eyes were red, sweat kept dripping from his face, and he was in great pain. If it weren't for the cellular devouring technique that strengthened his body at the cellular level, and his super healing ability that repaired the damage, he would not be able to withstand the power of the fusion of Linlin and Kaido's shadow. One can imagine how much pain he was in. If he wasn't forced to do so, Yuan wouldn't want to use such a self-depleting move. The situation was urgent. Kaido and Linlin were blocked, Silver Axe was out of reach, and John stayed out of it. Yuan can only rely on himself. The blue flame in his hand made a sharp sound of breaking wind and smashed down fiercely. It feels like what's in your hand is not a knife, but a stick or a hammer, and you swing it to attack. Bang! 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 Boom! 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 Zhang Guo raised his arms and blocked several attacks in succession, but for a moment he was unable to force Yuan to retreat even a step. This actually has the power to fight? Zhang Guo was extremely surprised. I find Yun's methods incredible. The intelligence half a month ago said that he was worth tens of millions of dollars in bounty. It's only been half a month, how can he master such power? Although Yuan used the power of the devil fruit, Zhang Guo knew that the devil fruit power was also part of his own strength. This shows that Yuan's strength growth during this period has far exceeded everyone's expectations. He even kept his devil fruit abilities hidden. This person must not be allowed to stay. Thinking of this, Zhang Guo's murderous intent became even stronger. Shockwave! Zhang Guo suddenly clasped his palms together, and a white light with a destructive aura burst out from his palms. The power bursting out from the Buddha's two palms gathered together, like a Kamehameha move, and attacked with a destructive impact, ruthlessly squeezing the surrounding air. Yuan breathed heavily and shook his head hard to keep himself awake. The shock wave coming from the front was more terrifying than the last time. There was a moment like that. Yun even wanted to use tyranny. But once tyranny is used, the shadow power of Kaido and the other two will be fully activated, and Yun's body will probably be shattered before the attack is formed. There is an upper limit to physical strength. The power that Yun can borrow is far from beyond its limit. Otherwise, you will die and your soul will be destroyed. Blue Demon, Fallen God! Yun's figure floated in the air, and he suddenly raised his arms and shouted. Boom! Blue flame, the blade suddenly flickered, and the flame patterns seemed to come alive and began to move. Countless flames instantly swirled behind Yun, turning into a scorching sea of fire. For a moment, it was hard to tell whether it was sword energy or flame. Blue flames flying and condensing. The flames in the sky finally turned into a blue edge attached to the blade. The patterns on the blade of the blue flame suddenly looked hideous and terrifying against the backdrop of the gleaming black armor of the armament-colored divine armor, like the head of a roaring demon king, which was terrifying. Yun held the knife in both hands and rushed out in the direction of the shock wave. Blue flame opens the way ahead. Boom! The shock wave penetrated and fell. Yun's figure was completely submerged in it, and a violent roar continued to ring out, as if destroying something indestructible. Damn it! That guy is so messy! Kaido and Charlotte Linlin's expressions suddenly changed, thinking that this was not good. The destructive power of the shock wave from the Warring States period was unprecedentedly strong. Even if they were to bear it, they would have to resist it with all their might, let alone Yun. They are still not aware of the power that Yun holds, and still believe that there is a huge gap between Yun and them. But the next second, a tragic roar rang out across the battlefield. Get out of here, lousy! Blue Devil! In the shock wave shrouded in white light, Yun's roar was particularly heroic, yet also terrifying. The blue slash instantly pierced through the shock wave from top to bottom, and fell towards the shock wave, like an axe chopping wood. Simple and crude. The big Buddha Zhang's pupils trembled violently as he stared at the young man with a hideous face who was coming against the shock wave. Just like the devil in hell, overbearing and crazy. Extremely scary. Buddha's palm impact. Zhang's murderous intent became even stronger. His pupils suddenly contracted, and a strange and more powerful energy instantly swirled around his palms. Lightning flashed around the giant Buddha, making the Buddha's body look even more majestic and sacred. It's a tyrant! Yun, get out of the way! Kaido warned loudly. Charlotte Linlin wanted to rush over but was stopped by Garp and couldn't get close at all. Silver Axe finally managed to escape, wearing silver armor, holding a battle axe, and charging like a knight, but the distance was too far and he was still too late. John stared at Zhang's domineering posture in amazement, and secretly swallowed his saliva. Un can actually force Zhang to use Conqueror's Entanglement? You're going to die now. The more John saw how terrifying Yun was, the more he wanted Yun to die. Anyway, we have already torn our faces apart, and have become enemies, so there is no point in pretending. John knew very well that Rox was cold-blooded and ruthless. As long as Yun died, Rox would never do anything for the dead. So at this time, even Silver Axe rushed over to help, but John chose to stand by and watch. However, Silver Axe's rescue was too late. The Buddha's palm gently extended out. The terrifying destructive force erupted in an instant. Bang! Yun paused, and the light on the blade suddenly dimmed. Although it had not yet touched the golden Buddha's palm, the blade could not advance even an inch. He knew very well that this was the power and characteristic of tyranny. But there is nothing we can do. If he used the tyranny technique at this moment, it would be tantamount to suicide. At this time, Charlotte Linlin and Kaido's shadow are one with him. The fusion alone is too much for his body to bear. If the tyranny explodes, his body will be torn into pieces first. Yun watched helplessly as the power of the Buddha's palm was completely destroyed. Next second, he only felt the whistling of the wind in his ears, and flew out in a dizzying manner. Two huge shadows broke out of the body uncontrollably and returned to the feet of Kaido and Charlotte Lin. "Hey! Marine bastards! You actually hit a child! Laozi will never let you off!" Suddenly there was a loud shout from the sky. A huge rock of more than 10 meters appeared out of nowhere and suddenly fell down. The lion-like blonde figure on the boulder swooped down and grabbed Yuan, who was blown away by Zhang Guo. "You! Damn! How did you make it so tragic?" Golden Lion Shiki's expression suddenly changed when he saw Yuan's appearance. Yuan's body was in tatters, his breath was weak, and it was unknown whether he was alive or dead. "I'll take you to find the ship's doctor right now. Just hold on." The Golden Lion Shiki roared, turned around and was about to take Yuan away first. Ahem, rather than looking for a ship's doctor, I hope you can kill Zhang Guo." Yuan struggled to raise his head. His breath was weak, but the murderous intent on his face remained unabated. Golden Lion Shiki was startled when he saw this scene and was deeply shocked by Yuan. "Can you still speak? Isn't this a last gasp?" When Yuan heard what the Golden Lion said, he almost choked his breath and gritted his teeth and said, "F***ck Kumba. I can't die." He breathed deeply. A warm current flows through the body, like spring rain moistening the dry earth and bringing life back to all things. Super healing ability shows powerful effect. Cytophagy version 2.0. "Damn monster! You can't even die!" The Golden Lion Shiki was still shocked, and fell downwards cursing. Bang! The big Buddha Zhang Guo smashed the huge rock falling from the sky with one palm, and then the Golden Lion Shiki was seen falling from the sky holding Yuan. The moment Yuan landed, he released his own shadow and started to collect other people's shadows. With the help of the power of shadow amplification, you can recover from injuries faster. "Golden Lion Shiki? You're here so fast!" Zhang Guo was shocked and subconsciously looked at Yuan, wanting to confirm whether he was dead or not. "Zhang Guo, you bastard, what's the point of bullying newcomers? Laozi is here to play with you." The Golden Lion Shiki put down Yuan. Ingshi and Mu Ku showed their cold light and rushed towards Zhang Guo to kill him. Warring States? When he saw Yuan standing on his feet, his mind almost went blank. He couldn't imagine how Yuan could remain undead under the destructive impact of the Great Buddha. It can even stand on its own. What kind of monster is this kid? The people of the Warring States period were numb. But the Golden Lion Shiki will make him even more numb. As soon as the two of them started fighting, the Marine side sounded the retreat horn. Emergency retreat. Sengoku knew that the retreat signal meant that the Rock's pirates had come to support him, and he probably had no chance to kill Yuan. A trace of regret appeared on his serious face. Garp turned his head and found that Yuan was still standing with a wonderful expression on his face. Thinking of the goal of this operation assigned by Cyborg, Garp narrowed his eyes and his iron fist became heavier. Next second, Garp suddenly turned around, abandoned Charlotte Lin, and ran straight towards Yuan. Like an unstoppable humanoid beast, no one can stop Garp's might. Fist Bone Galaxy Impact! Garp suddenly arched his body, arcs of electricity flashed wildly around him, and he threw a heavy punch at Yuan, which was also a fatal punch. Yuan's eyes widened as he looked at Garp, who was determined to punch him even if he had to endure the attack from Charlotte Lin from behind. An unknown fire burned in his heart, and his face became more and more ferocious. "Everyone wants to kill Laozi. Do you really think Laozi is easy to bully? Who the hell doesn't know how to be a tyrant?" Brush. Shadow-Un returns, bringing with him more than 100 shadows. Including the remaining shadows from before, I now have at least 200 shadows. More than 200 shadows instantly enveloped Yuan, wrapping him up layer by layer to form a shadow armor. The increased power brought about by this made Yuan feel much better, and he was able to use his strength again. The shadow of the external fusion shadow armor will be damaged. This is also the reason why Yuan did not borrow Charlotte Lin and Kaido's shadow to merge externally. When the shadow is fused with the magic shadow form, the shadow will not be damaged. At most it will exit the fusion state. Darkborn Fist! Yun's eyes narrowed, Conqueror's domineering Kamui was released. Dark lightning patterns flowed on the fist that was wrapped around and covered with dark shadows. Yun knew he couldn't stand up to Garp. But if I do nothing, am I just waiting to die in vain? Thunderous 8 trigrams! Kaido's voice suddenly came from the side, and he rushed in front of Yun with a mace to face Garp's solemn and terrifying punch. Silver Axe rushed over to help Kaido stop Zephyr, which freed Kaido's hands. Boom! The iron fist collided with the 8 fasts, and the explosive power suddenly spread out. The impact came and Yun couldn't hold on for a moment. Countless smoke and dust filled the air. So damn righteous! As Yun flew backwards, he cursed under his breath. Kaido literally saved his life. Bang! Bang! 2 figures slammed into the ground. One big and one small. It was Kaido and Yun. Even Kaido was blown away by that extremely fierce punch. Fortunately, he blocked most of the impact, allowing Yun to withstand the impact. Kaido got up from the ground, shook his head, and reached out to take out Yun. His expression was a little anxious, but his movements were cautious. Hey, I can't die yet! Yun raised his head slightly, stared at the direction where Marine left, and said through gritted teeth. You can't even die? Are you a human being? Kaido was shocked. I was ready to observe a moment of silence, but you were the first to speak? I can't die. Laozi will never die again. Yun murmured incoherently, his eyes gleaming with an extremely strong light. This is the first time that Yun faces an absolute life-and-death crisis. Not only did it not scare him. Instead, it awakened him. The inner frustration made Yun set a goal for himself that no one could believe. The Dark King's awakened form will be unlocked within 1 month. As long as he activates his awakening form, Yun will have world-class power. By then, no one can kill Laozi. The other side. Garp, Sengoku, Zephyr and others led the marine to retreat quickly, and actually abandoned the kingdom of Nerit. Far away. Whitebeard, Achaku and others are coming. Are you okay, kid? The golden lion Shiki descended from the sky, mastering the power of the float fruit. Yun lay on the ground and let his body repair itself, too lazy to move a finger. Hearing this, he said seriously, Thank you for this time. At this moment, he suddenly felt that some pirates were quite reliable. Ha ha ha, if we hadn't been stopped by Roger's pirate group on the way, we would have arrived long ago. Shiki the Golden Lion said with regret. Maybe the bastard marine wouldn't be able to escape. Roger pirates? Yun narrowed his eyes, muttered softly, and a thoughtful look appeared on his face. Why do I suddenly feel like a nesting doll? I am the bait. Marine is coming towards me. The rest of the Rock's pirates are preparing to surround and kill Marine. But they were stopped by Roger's pirate group. This is fucking confusing. Yun's face darkened slightly, and he felt extremely tired. This situation is a bit too complicated. The relationships involved here may be difficult to understand in the short term. Everyone has spies under the other party. I must find a way to eliminate the undercover agent of the Rock's pirates. The biggest crisis that Yun felt came from the undercover agent around him. Certainly. I don't have a good impression of Rox either. It is obvious that Rox knew about Marine's actions and deliberately sent Yun to carry out the mission in order to lure Marine into action, and then take advantage of the situation while Marine was waiting. However, they didn't expect that the plan would be accidentally destroyed by Roger's pirate group. From beginning to end, Yun was completely unprepared. He himself did not expect that Rox, who obviously valued him very much, would sell him out so thoroughly and did not care about his life or death at all. This made Yun completely disappointed with the Rock's pirates. I have even begun to look forward to the Battle of God Valley. It would be better if Rox died sooner. There was also John, who was watching coldly. Yun had no good feelings towards this man and even wanted to find an opportunity to kill him. Such a sinister guy may stab you in the back at any time. Just as Yun was thinking about it, Whitebeard and the others arrived one after another. How could Yun be injured so badly? Whitebeard looked surprised. Shaki suddenly said from behind Whitebeard. Marines sent out 3 top fighters, Garp, Sengoku, and Zephyr. Didn't you guys actually fail to stop them? Yuan sneered in his heart. As expected, he knew the information, and it was all arranged. Yun has completely given up on the Rock's pirates. Not only does he not feel a sense of belonging, he even feels disgusted with this group of pirates. But there are exceptions. Kaido saved his own life. Charlotte Linlin and Golden Lion Shiki also helped me. Yun kept all these in mind. But as for the other pirates, Yun had only one thought: let them all die. It's that bastard John! He just stood there and watched. Kaido became furious when he thought of John's previous actions. He stood up with his mace in hand and looked for John. Upon hearing this, Whitebeard frowned imperceptibly. Shaki and Flame Flower looked at each other and remained silent. Bullshit! Lousy is also killing Marine! John smiled coldly and started to argue. He won't admit anything no matter what. Just those few Marine scum are keeping you trapped? Then why are we keeping a useless thing like you? Go to hell! Kaido took a step forward, swung up the 8 priestess and smashed it down. If I don't like it, I'll F***CKU. How dare you insult Lousy? John saw Kaido's attack and immediately became furious. He thrust out 2 western swords, their sharp edges flashing. And just at this moment, a hedgehog-headed figure with a crimson cloak suddenly appeared in the middle. Both fists punched out at the same time. It looks ordinary, and there is nothing mysterious about it. But the space around the fist seemed to collapse slightly. Bang! Bang! Kaido and John flew out at the same time. This was arranged by Lousy. Who has any objection now? Rock's domineering figure looked around the whole audience. His overbearing eyes made people dare not look him in the face. No one dared to object. Even Yoon remained silent. There's no point in wasting your breath. Rox is a man of his own accord, and no one can influence his thinking. Clean up the battlefield. Rox gave the order in a deep voice, and then left. All that was left was people looking at each other in bewilderment. Humph! John snorted coldly and left with an unhappy look on his face. Damn it! Kaido clenched his fists. If it weren't for Rox's power, he would definitely teach John a lesson. Okay, let's go back. Yoon spoke out in comfort. Kaido nodded and whispered, I will definitely find a chance to teach him a lesson. Yuen couldn't help but sigh. I think so too. The two looked at each other and laughed at the same time. Hey! You still have the heart to laugh, Yuen, go back and have a baby with me. Who knows, you might die someday. Charlotte Linlin came behind Yuen and said excitedly. Yuen shuddered and said quickly, I can't move now. I'll wait until my injuries recover. Charlotte Linlin. You said the same thing last time? Looking at Yuen's body that was shattered like a balloon, Charlotte Linlin did not choose to force herself on him. Ha 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 ha, you are so lucky that you weren't killed by the Marine. Shiki the Golden Lion came over with a big laugh and said admiringly, It would have been great if you had joined Laozi's army. Laozi would have protected you. Where do all these dangers come from? How about joining Laozi's team now? Forget it, I just want to practice well in the future. Yuen said weakly. But I still want to thank you this time. Ha ha! The thanked Golden Lion Shiki smiled even more arrogantly. It's good that you know. Laozi will take you back first. Shiki used the power of the float fruit to create a huge rock out of the ground beneath his feet, carrying himself and Yuen back to Beehive Island. Charlotte Linlin and Kaido took the opportunity to take a flight. Whitebeard looked at the figures going away in silence. Why do I feel like they've become closer since Yuen joined? The group returned to Beehive Island. Of course, Yuen was looking for something to eat. Now he urgently needs to replenish his energy. Repairing body damage is a top priority. But improving your strength is more important. Today's battle made Yuen realize the gap, and his sense of crisis increased again. So he only gave himself 1 month. The Fruit Awakening form must be activated. But there's one thing Yuen can't let go of. Get rid of the undercover. Leaking my information caused me to be wanted by Marine, Passing information to Marine almost killed me. The first thing was fine. But what happened today angered Yuan. Tell me about Bodhi, Chris, Will, and Ross. While eating, Yuan spoke. The 4 of them? Kaido was slightly stunned, then he immediately reacted and whispered. You don't suspect that there is an undercover agent among them, do you? Undercover? Golden Lion Shiki's eyes lit up when he heard this topic. I'm not going to be shy with you guys. I'll just say whatever I want to say. My initial suspicion is against these 4 people, but I'm not sure of who they are, or even if there are any undercover agents among them. Of Opening said in a clear and concise manner. After saying that, he took a big bite of meat. Why don't you suspect that bastard John? You can kill him directly if you find a little evidence. Golden Lion Shiki suddenly said insidiously. He didn't care who the undercover was, he just thought it was interesting. I think so, but that guy is really not that guy. Unless he finds a way to frame him. Yuan was powerless. Forget about the frame-up, if the captain finds out, we can't afford the consequences. Golden Lion Shiki became obedient. So can you tell me about those 4 people? Yuan urged. There's nothing special about the 4 of them. Kaido scratched his head, looking somewhat helpless. Don't look at Laozi. Laozi doesn't have the time to pay attention to them. Golden Lion Shiki crossed his arms and said casually. It has nothing to do with me. Charlotte Linlin is confident. Yuan. What a bunch of trash. There is no progress in finding the undercover agent. All Yuan can do is concentrate on improving his strength. In 2 days, the injury was completely recovered. But eating a large amount of food every day makes Yuan very tired, and he feels that his masseter muscles are more developed than those from chewing betel nuts. You are not satisfied with taking energy from food, and you feel a new way. You successfully created Self-Phage 3.0. Self-phagocytosis 3.0, able to absorb the energy between heaven and earth to temper the body. It finally worked! Yuan suddenly opened his eyes, his pupils were extremely bright and sparkling. Now I can directly draw energy from heaven and earth to strengthen my body. This way, my body will be strengthened even faster. He was very excited. At this moment, all the cells in my body seemed to be moving in rhythm with my breathing. I even seemed to hear the cells cheering. With his heaven-defying intuition, Yuan has completely created a cultivation path that subverts cognition. My physique can be quickly strengthened, but I have no idea how to master other devil fruit abilities. When Yuan came into contact with a devil fruit user, his spiritual sense could indeed sense a hint of different power, but he was still a long way from mastering the power of the devil fruit, especially as he was not sure whether he could master it. There was nothing Yuan could do about it. After all, Yuan is still eager to master more abilities to enhance his strength. Strength is the key. It's time to practice Conqueror's Kamui. Yuan suppressed his emotions and gradually entered a calm state of cultivation. Conqueror's Kamui is inherently more powerful than regular conquerors. Moreover, since Yuan started practicing, he has been strengthening himself. Coupled with Yuan's independent practice, Conqueror's Kamui is getting stronger and stronger, and is even catching up with Kaido. On the other side, Rock stood on the skull, gazing at the sea waves with deep eyes, his crimson cloak fluttering in the sea breeze. Captain? Stussy walked slowly behind Rox and said respectfully. Yuan refused to give blood. Hearing this, Rox retracted his deep gaze as if thinking about something, and after a moment he spoke calmly. Laozi will ask him for it personally. Rox is in charge of a cloning technology research, and Stussy is the person in charge. However, judging from later generations, their research seemed to have failed. After all, there is only Weevil, a monster who inherited Whitebeard's extraordinary power, and his body is full of stitches, making it difficult for people to guess that he is a human. What secret does he have? When I asked him for blood, he was very resistant. Stussy speculated and whispered. Laozi is also very curious. I originally thought that Yuan was just a kid who could obediently follow Laozi's orders, but now it seems that he has the same ambitions as those guys. And his training speed is so terrifying that he was able to defeat Zhang Gua in less than a month. Speaking of which, the development of the shadow fruit in his hands seems to be particularly powerful, Rox said in a low voice. Yun gave him a big surprise this time. It was originally planned that it would take 3 to 5 years for Yun to fully grow up, but now it seems that it will not take at all, and 1 year is too much. The more curious Rox became, the more he wanted to find out Yun's secret. That's why Stussy was asked to ask for Yun's blood to study the bloodline factor. A hint of murderous intent suddenly flashed across Rox's eyes. If you can't be used by Laozi, then die. At this moment, Rox was extremely crazy. He only has his own goals. Anyone who stands in the way is the enemy. Stussy felt the chilling murderous intent, his body trembled slightly, and he lowered his head submissively. At the same time, Marine headquarters. When it was confirmed that Yun was alive, there were sighs and sighs from the Fleet Admiral's office. I sent all of you to act, but you didn't even kill a little devil? Cyborg slammed the table, making a loud bang-bang sound, looking very disappointed. Yeah, Sengoku, what happened to you? Why didn't you kill Yun? Garp laughed. Kill your ass. Zhang couldn't hold it in any longer. That guy has fused Charlotte Lin and Kaido's shadow, and his strength has greatly increased. He even withstood Laozi's Buddha palm. It's incredible. Besides, Garp, the last punch didn't kill Yun. Laozi was blocked by Kaido, Garp said unconvinced. Victory was certain, but both of them let Yun survive. Is it my own waste? No. It's that guy Yun that is too perverted. Besides, the power of Yun's last domineering move was quite strong. Garp touched his chin and said quietly, his expression suddenly becoming more serious. Indeed, his conqueror's aura is very strong. And after this operation fails, it may be difficult to find another opportunity. With Yun's growth rate, if he is given another year, he may be able to fight us completely. Sengoku sighed worriedly. That bastard Rox actually planted a spy in Marine, Cyborg said angrily. If it wasn't for Roger, Marine would have really fallen into the trap this time. Everyone knows about the spy. Vice Admiral, he said slowly. What does the world government say? Aren't they going to take action? Cyborg crossed his arms and said, There's news from the 5 elders. They're sending agents to assassinate Casa Yun and have Marine go undercover to help with the operation. Are you crazy? Running to the Rock's base to assassinate cadres? Zifa was speechless. It's better to go into battle head-on. I hope this operation goes smoothly. Lieutenant General, he prayed quietly. The talent displayed by Yun shocked everyone present. The sooner you solve it, the sooner you will feel at ease. 3 more days passed in the blink of an eye. Yun practiced peacefully in his residence. Suddenly I realized something. A shadow that is imperceptible to the naked eye is moving quietly in the dark. Due to the power of the devil fruit, Yun is very sensitive to shadows, so he noticed it immediately. But he still acted like he knew nothing. The shadow in the dark was completely lurking, motionless. Yun also remained motionless, wanting to see what the other party was going to do. The stalemate lasted for 3 hours. Yun doesn't care. The cell phagocytosis technique is running in practice as usual. But the atmosphere in the dark seemed to be getting anxious. Call out. The flying finger gun was aimed at Yun's forehead. Bite. Yun did not dodge or evade, and easily blocked the attack of the flying finger gun with his body. He opened his eyes and watched quietly as the person slowly stood up in the shadows. He was a middle-aged man with a yellow face and wearing a black windbreaker. He looked at Yun in surprise and shock, as if he couldn't understand why the flying finger gun didn't even hurt the other person's skin. Yun looked at the man in front of him, and suddenly an organization popped up in his mind. World government people? The way he's dressed and the way he attacks make him look exactly like an agent trained by the world government. Casa Yun, I advise you not to make it public. You have been poisoned. This poison is prepared according to the power of the poison fruit. Only the world government has the antidote. As long as you cooperate with me, I might be able to give you the antidote. The middle-aged man dressed as a secret agent warned in a low voice. Yoon's eyes widened slightly. I just felt inexplicably uncomfortable in my stomach, but I felt much better after I farted twice. What a nasty poison, it actually made lousy fart twice. The middle-aged man saw Yuan's expression and thought he was frightened, so he took the opportunity to say, As long as you cooperate with me, I will give you the antidote. If you don't cooperate, you will die. He originally thought that Yuan would be a monster with 3 heads and 9 arms. But after seeing him, I found out that he was just a young boy. Even stayed there for 3 hours. This kind of guy is considered a serious, dangerous person? Especially now. He had been stunned by the poison. The middle-aged man was very proud and felt that he had accomplished a great task. How can I cooperate? Yuan didn't do anything, but instead started a conversation. Well, hand over the secrets of your cultivation. You can cultivate so fast, don't tell me you haven't mastered anything. The middle-aged man asked harshly. The reason why the world government was dispatched was to obtain secrets related to Yuan. Yuan's heart sank slightly. As expected, the cultivation matter has aroused suspicion. Not only the world government, but even Vox became suspicious, otherwise he wouldn't have sent Stussy to ask for my blood. Several thoughts flashed through my mind instantly. I didn't expect the other party to state his purpose so directly. Of course I can cooperate with you, but you have to tell me something first. Yuan put away his thoughts and said with a smile, without any sign of nervousness. What's the matter? The middle-aged man asked curiously. He was ordered to assassinate Yuan, and also to find a way to get Yuan's secret. It would be great if Yuan could confess on his own initiative. You were able to sneak in here, so the undercover agent must have helped you, right? If you tell me who the undercover agent is... Before Yuan could finish his words, the man in the middle suddenly attacked. He instantly realized that Yuan was trying to trick him. So he decided to capture Yuan first. As soon as the middle-aged man took a step, his body froze in place, unable to move except his head. He looked down in horror and finally found the shadow wrapped around his body. What did you do? Aren't you afraid of dying from the poison? Yuan ignored him, walked up and punched him. All of the middle-aged man's teeth were knocked out to prevent him from biting his tongue to commit suicide. Now tell me, who sent you? World Government Fleet Admiral? 5 elders? Yuan stared at the middle-aged man quietly. The seeing and hearing sense and the spiritual consciousness monitored the changes in his heartbeat and breathing. You didn't take drugs. The middle-aged man did not answer the question, but was unwilling to ask it. He had difficulty speaking due to his lack of teeth. He thought Yuan was young and just an ignorant boy. Even though he was strong, he didn't really take it seriously. He never expected that Yuan would react so quickly and control himself silently. Even if he fought with all his strength, he was no match for Yuan. Answer my question! Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly, exuding a terrifying aura and murderous intent. Heh! The middle-aged man sneered, with blood foam spurting out of his mouth. Who is the undercover? Yuan asked, staring at him closely. But the next second, the middle-aged man's face suddenly turned red and his breathing became rapid. In just a few seconds he was out of breath. How is this done? Yuan frowned, puzzled. He was clearly staring at the other person without making any move, but he still committed suicide. As expected of a death warrior. I don't understand why the world government sent such a loser. Yuan shook his head helplessly, his tone full of disgust. Because the world government could not have imagined that in just 5 days, Yun's strength would double again. This agent was good at assassination and there was a high possibility that he could kill Yuan in a surprise attack. But not only did Yuan's strength grow, he also realized the 3rd stage of the iron balloon, the level of perfection. Yuan's defense is now as terrifying as Charlotte Lingling's. These are the changes and improvements brought about by Self-Phage 3.0. The effect of 5 days is stronger than the effect of half a month before. Both the world government and the Marines thought that Yuan was seriously injured and would need to rest for at least a few months. Because Yuen usually hides himself very well, even the undercover agent didn't know this news. It doesn't matter who sent us here, what matters is who the undercover agent is. This assassination attempt failed. Marine might really decide to burn his boats, and use an undercover agent to kill me. Damn it! They didn't target those guys, but chose to bully a newcomer like me. It's really ridiculous. Yuen stared at the corpse, wondering how to find the undercover. A long time. He exhaled slowly and said softly, Kurazumi. He gradually came up with an idea. After dawn, Yuen and the yellow-faced middle-aged man walked around the camp together, attracting the attention of most people. Silver Axe was even curious about the man's identity, but Yuen just evaded the question. After that, Yuen and the yellow-faced middle-aged man left and went to the coast. The yellow-faced middle-aged man suddenly chopped Yuen unconscious with a knife. But no one noticed that his hands in his trouser pockets were trembling slightly. Why is this kid's skin so tough? Kurazumi endured the pain and cursed in her heart. This yellow-faced middle-aged man is Kurazumi. After a while, there is no movement yet. Kurazumi turned around and shouted to the back. Come out, I have something else to tell you. He also didn't know whether there was anyone in the forest. Since Yuen asked me to speak, then just speak. Sure enough, when the words fell, there was a noise. You are courting death. Why didn't you leave after arresting Yuen? Why did you show up at the camp? If you are found to be abnormal, you will surely die. A voice came with suppressed anger. Then a tall figure walked out, holding a big knife. Will! Kurazumi was shocked. I didn't expect it would be so easy to lure out the undercover. The 5 elders asked me to give you one last task. Kurazumi remained calm and spoke slowly. This is also the final test and confirmation. It was Fleet Admiral Cyborg who contacted me all along. How come the 5 elders gave me orders personally? What did Fleet Admiral Cyborg say? Will frowned and looked around, afraid that someone would get close and discover his secret. Laozi has been lurking for several years, and was exposed because of this kid. Rox is on guard against everyone, and some things may not be possible. Will has not yet doubted the identity of the yellow-faced middle-aged man. Why aren't you talking? What's the mission? Will frowned even deeper when he saw Kurazumi didn't say anything, and felt something was wrong. The mission is to let you die. Yuen suddenly got up from the ground, as if nothing had happened, and looked at Will with a sneer. Even he didn't expect that Marine's undercover agent would be Will. This guy is a corrupt Marine, doing all kinds of evil. But who would have thought that he was actually a spy trained by Steelbone and an undercover agent who infiltrated the Rocks pirates? Are you okay? Will was startled, and suddenly held his sword in front of him, staring fiercely at the yellow-faced middle-aged man, and said angrily, The world government actually has a damn traitor like you. Ha, traitor? Take a good look at who I am. Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Kurazumi laughed and took off his disguise. Will's eyes suddenly froze. Yuen originally just wanted to try to see if he could lure out the undercover agent. The world government agent knows exactly where he is and has definitely come into contact with the undercover agent. He took advantage of this and paraded Kurazumi through the streets to attract attention. Then he went to the coast and pretended to run away. It was that last sentence that tricked Will out. You guys plotted against Laozi. Will thought to himself that this was terrible. My identity was exposed. Damn Yuen! Why does he seem to know everything? When Will saw the agent and Yuen walking together in the camp, he was immediately confused. He couldn't figure out what the agent wanted to do, so he couldn't help but follow him to see what was going on. It wasn't until the other party said that Will felt there was nothing wrong and showed up. But I didn't expect it. It was all Yuen's plan from the beginning to the end. The agents are all Kurazumi imitators. What about the real agents? Was he killed by Yuen? Will is confused now. The main reason was that his undercover identity was exposed, which made him increasingly panicked. Plotting? You plotted against me several times. I must repay you once. Yuan sneered. His eyes were extremely cold. He placed his hands on his waist and drew out blue flame. Humph! It won't be too late to kill you lousy and leave later. There are no shadows of Kaido and Linlin here for you to use. Seeing this, Will became murderous. Although it is not clear how the agent failed. But as long as he can eliminate the hidden danger of Yuan, it will be enough. You really think you are a warring states? Yuan shot out like a cannonball. A layer of shadow magic armor covers the whole body. Shadow Yuan also merged at this moment. 10,000 shadow armor. Shadow form. All of a sudden, Yuan's power surged. He had originally cultivated himself into a steel balloon, possessing powerful defenses while also possessing terrifying strength. Plus the increase in the shadow form, and my own growth during this period. Not inferior to Will at all. Boom! The two sword lights collided with each other. It created a terrifying blast. Will took a few steps back, his eyes wide open, and shouted in disbelief. When did you become so strong? It's only been 5 days since Un was badly injured by Marine. Not to mention a sudden increase in strength. A normal person can't even recover from the injury. But within just 5 days, not only did Yuan recover from his injuries, but his strength also increased several times. How could this be so perverted? The Welsh were dumbfounded. He has witnessed Yuan's growth since the very beginning. In less than a month, even I am no match for him? How is this possible? Oh la 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 la! You can't run away! Mama, I didn't expect it to be you, Will. Marine really paid a lot to train you. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin attacked from behind. Although he was surprised, his murderous intent remained unabated. Don't mention Will. Even if they find out that the undercover agent is Whitebeard today, they will have to find a way to kill him. Hateful! Will felt heavy-hearted and immediately abandoned Yuan and rushed towards the sea. These guys are all powerful people. As long as Laozi enters the sea, they will be helpless. Once entangled, death is certain. Ha ha! Will, I personally recommended you to the captain. You really disappoint me. Lion Thousand Slice Valley! The angry voice of the Golden Lion Shiki came from midair, and he directly stopped the escaping Will. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin arrived shortly afterwards. All three of them exploded. Even though Will was one of the cadres, he still couldn't resist the three domineering guys. By the time the people on the island noticed the battle and arrived, Will had his limbs crushed by Yuan and thrown to the ground like a dog. Hey! You actually attacked Will! Are you planning to rebel? John was horrified and shouted angrily at everyone. He didn't know what happened yet. Oh? You're protecting an undercover agent. I think you want to rebel. Shiki, the Golden Lion, responded with murderous intent. If you dare to point at me again, I'll chop off your dog's paws. Undercover! John didn't care about being scolded by Golden Lion. He was completely shocked by the word undercover. Everyone has always speculated about the existence of undercover agents. Now that the undercover agent has really appeared, everyone is shocked. Will is actually an undercover agent? Whitebeard looked surprised and stunned. The most unlikely Will is actually an undercover agent. Marine is really insidious. Are you sure? This is not a joke, Achika said in disbelief. Hey! Stop questioning me here. I have made great contributions in this matter. I don't want to waste time talking to you. Shiki, the Golden Lion, put away Mu Ku and Ingshur, and was about to order his men to take Will away. Stop! You can't leave until everything is explained clearly. John stopped them. I'm going to take him away, what do you think? Yuan stepped forward and faced John, fighting spirit rising in his eyes. Provoked, John sneered. Ha! You really think you are a cadre, and you dare to challenge me. Today I will teach you a lesson. Boom! Kaido and Charlotte Linlin exploded at the same time, and a terrifying pressure immediately enveloped John. John, who was smiling just now, suddenly looked gloomy. Whitebeard, Achiku, Silver Axe and the others had no intention of taking action at all. John stared, feeling an urge to curse. Just when Ewan and his companions were planning to destroy John, Rox appeared. Stop it, everyone! Captain? They killed Will! John immediately stepped forward to complain. Rox glanced at him coldly. His aura was extremely oppressive, and he said indifferently, Will is an undercover agent of Marine, and has been cleared by Ewan. If anyone has any objections, Lousy doesn't mind treating him as an undercover agent. Just a few words to shut everyone up. John opened his mouth and felt as uncomfortable as if he had eaten shit. Take Will down, Ewan, you stay. Rox glanced at Will, his eyes devoid of any emotion. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and the others left one after another. Only Rox and Ewan were left. Captain, this incident happened very suddenly and we didn't have time to report it. Ewan was the first to explain. Rox nodded, not seeming to care about it. You have become much stronger. To be honest, even Lousy can't figure out how you practice to become stronger so quickly. There has never been such a strong man on the sea. As he spoke, Rox's gaze fell on Ewan, making it impossible to decipher the meaning behind it. I don't know either. My body becomes stronger naturally when I eat. Ewan spread his hands and said helplessly. I was already feeling nervous. Today's Rox seems a little different from before. His words and actions are full of indifference. In that case, take some blood and see if Stussy's research can reveal anything. Rox spoke up. The tone was full of unquestionable command. Ewan inexplicably felt a biting chill, and his mind suddenly tensed up. Good. He agreed immediately. If I refuse or hesitate, Rox will definitely take my blood himself. Rox nodded slightly, turned around and took Ewan to an extremely secret laboratory. Captain? When Stussy saw who was coming, he was slightly stunned and immediately became respectful. Take blood from Ewan, Rox said calmly, without any emotion in his tone. Ewan finally felt the feeling of being controlled again, and he was very unhappy. But at this moment, I was helpless. Stussy quickly found measuring cups, needles, and other tools. No need to bother. Ewan took the measuring cup, put away the steel balloon, picked up the blue flame and cut his palm, and blood immediately gushed out. He seemed not to notice the pain in his palm at all, and just watched the blood flow quietly. Okay. Stussy spoke up. Ewan withdrew his hand and rubbed the blood on his clothes. The cells immediately enter a state of self-repair. Stussy took the measuring cup and walked deeper into the laboratory. After doing all this, Ewan seemed to be relieved, and his tense body relaxed. He inadvertently glanced at the research plan of the devil fruit placed next to him, and a new idea suddenly emerged in his mind. You were scared just now. Why are you relaxing now? Rox sat casually on a chair and suddenly asked. He was well aware of the changes in Ewan's physical condition. Captain, when the world government agents found me, they didn't just want to kill me, they also wanted to know the secret of my cultivation, but I really don't have any secrets. It turns out that not only the world government is paying attention to me, but even the captain is suspicious of me, so I can only honestly prove myself. I was really scared just now. I have never seen you in that state, Captain. It feels like you will kill me at any time. Of course I will be afraid. Ewan simply laid his cards on the table and spoke out everything at once, as if he was complaining. As he spoke, he naturally pulled over a chair and sat down. It seems like you are not afraid of Lousy anymore all of a sudden. You dare to be so casual in front of Lousy. Rox leaned back in his chair and relaxed. The oppressive feeling around me also dissipated. Ewan thought for a moment, then said seriously, Captain, to be honest, I think you don't care about our attitude at all, you just need our respect. So you shouldn't mind if I'm a little casual, I'm afraid of you anyway. Ha 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 ha! Rox laughed. The laughter echoed in the laboratory, and there seemed to be a hint of fun. Ewan, you are becoming more and more interesting. You are the first person who dares to talk to Lousy in such a casual manner. Don't worry, we are just researching your blood factor status. No matter what the result is, you are still a cadre of the Rox Pirates. This sentence is like an imperial decree. Yuen said indifferently. To be honest, Captain, you are very kind to me by not cutting me into pieces for research. Ha 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 ha! I suddenly find that I can't see through you anymore. Rox laughed loudly, his eyes never leaving Yuen. Yuen raised his head slightly, met that domineering gaze, and said seriously, Captain, I have never seen through you. Oh? You still want to see through Lousy? Rox chuckled, and the oppressive feeling came over him again. This time, Yuen was not afraid and admitted, Yes. Captain, I want to know what you want. Boom! Thunder explodes. The electric arc spread out in an instant like a tide. The surrounding equipment was destroyed and sparks were emitted. But Rox didn't care at all. His terrifying aura pressed down on Yuen, as if he wanted to destroy his psychological defenses. Eyes as deep as endless darkness stared at Yuen and said word by word, Lousy, become the king of the world! It seemed to be telling Yuen, and it seemed to be announcing to the whole world. Yuen resisted the strong oppression. I know, that's why you summon these powerful forces. It doesn't matter whether they truly surrender or not. Don't care about their attitude. Just believe in your own strength. So I think as my strength grows, I'll be able to help you. Captain, I can promise that as long as you are in the Rox Pirates, I will never betray you. Even if you want to become the king of the world, I can contribute my strength. It seems that the God Valley incident is about to break out soon. Then Rox can die. This is what Yuen wants to see most. You may not believe me, but this is my greatest sincerity. Although I don't know how to cultivate my talent, I know very well what I want. Yuen's frank words made Rox slightly stunned. Is this guy showing off to Lousy? Yuen's meaning was cryptic but clear. If you can trust me, I will definitely help you. But if you insist on suspecting me, there is nothing I can do. Ha 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 ha! Rox laughed, but his aura gradually faded. I don't know whether he was persuaded by Yuen or had other ideas. Tell me what you want. Yuen immediately said. I want these research materials. I feel that I have touched the upper limit of the Shadow Fruit's ability, but this upper limit seems to be able to be broken, so I want to see if I can find a way to break through the upper limit of the fruit. The fruit awakens. Rox murmured in a low voice, his eyes full of surprise. It took only 20 days to reach the fruit awakening. Even Rox was jealous of this talent. Lousy allows you to view the research materials of devil fruits. You'd better keep your promise forever. If Lousy finds out that you betrayed him, don't blame him for being ruthless. Phew! Rox stretched out his palm, and dark matter like black flames flowed from his palm. The deep and pure darkness seemed to swallow up even the surrounding light. Yuen's pupils shrank violently. It is indeed the dark fruit. I bet right. When Rox uses the dark fruit, he becomes like an abyss that can swallow everything, making Yuen feel even more terrified. Lousy's ability restrains all devil fruit users, and you are no exception. Rox reveals his trump card to shock Yuen. He saw the potential of Yuen and needed this immeasurable power. The power of the dark fruit allows him to restrain devil fruit users. Therefore, Rox felt relieved when Yuen ate the shadow fruit. Yuen smiled. Thank you, Captain. He finally felt relieved. We performed such a drama today, which even had an element of gambling in it, but we finally got a satisfactory result. As long as the time is delayed until the God Valley event, Lousy will be truly free. When Yuen realized Rox's murderous intention, he decided to speak frankly and show his sincerity and true feelings, lest Rox really slice him up for research, which would make him die with regrets. The most important thing is to show that you are not only a devil fruit user, and it also touches the level of awakening. This way, Rox will be more certain that he can control himself no matter what the situation. Greatly weaken Rox's vigilance and suspicion. This is what Yuen wanted. Captain? Stussy looked at the messy laboratory around him and didn't dare to breathe. Yuen has the right to come in and out of here. Provide him with any information he wants to see. Rox stood up and said calmly. He will also cooperate with your research. Yes. You ruined Laozi's plan. Rox, who was about to leave, stopped and said suddenly. Ah? What plan? Yuan was a little confused. Because of your appearance, Will was exposed. Laozi has discovered that he is an undercover agent. Shaki collected information about the celestial dragons. Laozi originally planned to use Will to pass on information and plot against Marine. But you found him first. 3 days later, you go and bring back the heads of those Tianlong people to Laozi. If there's one head missing, replace it with your own. After saying that, Rox strode away. Yuan thought about the meaning of these words and thought to himself. So he found out, but he still stood by and watched. If Laozi wasn't really capable, he would have died. This is the cold-blooded Rox. Humph. Yuan knew it clearly. Of course Rox doesn't trust himself, he just has absolute confidence in his own abilities and is confident that he can control himself. Rox may never know that Yuan is not a devil fruit user in essence. This is also where he missed something. Only because Yuan showed enough fear did Rox agree to take control of such power. Otherwise, how could Rox stop so easily since he has already decided to kill her? Huh. Yuan let out a long sigh, his eyes becoming more determined. Once you pass this hurdle, it will be difficult for any crisis to threaten you. Haha, it looks like we're going to work together in the future, Brother Yuan. Stussy smiled with his hands covering his mouth, and looked at Yuan carefully with curiosity, wanting to see what the difference was that made Rox out of character. Please take good care of me. Yuan nodded and said politely. Although Stussy is good-looking, he has no interest in women now. I just want to understand the secret of the devil fruit as soon as possible so that I can master other devil fruit abilities. All the information is here. Feel free to contact me if you need anything. Stussy turned around and walked away slowly. She also wants to study Yun's blood. Her interest in Yun's blood factor went beyond the scope of the mission Rox gave her. New. Yuan picked up the information on the devil fruit and began to read it. But I was thinking about other things in my mind. My blood shouldn't reveal anything, right? Heaven defying is a form of cheating, and has nothing to do with blood. The only problem is that there is no devil fruit factor in my blood. Hopefully Stussy doesn't find out so quickly. Yuan's eyes flickered. Even though he was very careful, there were inevitably loopholes that could not be concealed. Once the fact that you have mastered the ability but have not eaten the devil fruit is exposed, Rox will definitely slice research. There is no doubt about this. F***ck it. Yuan didn't expect that he would face new problems just after escaping a disaster. Fortunately, there is still time. It is better to learn more about the information in front of you. You mastered the talent of Iron Balloon, and derived a new physical talent based on Iron Balloon, Golden Muscle, and Jade Bone. You understand more about devil fruits, and seem to have touched upon a method to control the abilities of new devil fruits. It seems that if you want to master new devil fruit abilities, you have to come into contact with devil fruits. You can't really grasp the core secrets by just making deductions out of thin air. But the Iron Balloon has developed a new talent, Golden Muscle and Jade Bones. My physique is now as good as anyone else's. The awakened form of the Darkened King can finally be used. During these 3 days, Yuan was in seclusion, and his strength increased dramatically again. The Iron Balloon is equivalent to a talent that acts on the skin. Yuan derived this training method and gained some of Charlotte Linlin's strange power from it. Gold Muscle and Jade Bones are different. This is equivalent to his gift of self-realization. Understand and master. Golden Muscle and Jade Bones act on muscles and bones, causing a complete transformation of the body. The indestructible body. Terrifying force. Yuan evolves again on the path of a monster. Even if he is not in his awakened form, he already has the power to rival other cadres. And the awakened form will be even more terrifying. I can gather another batch of shadows when I go out on a mission this time. The shadows stored in the Shadow Kingdom have been almost used up. Now that my strength has increased, the capacity of the Shadow Kingdom has increased several times. It is estimated that it can accommodate at least 1,000 shadows. Yuan calculated silently in his mind. Even though his strength increased dramatically, he still had to find ways to accumulate strength for emergencies. Kulala! Yuan, you seem to have become much stronger after not seeing you for a few days. Whitebeard greeted him with a hearty laugh, but his eyes showed obvious surprise. A small breakthrough. Are you leading the operation this time? Yuan walked to Whitebeard's side, sighed, but there was a big height difference between the two of them. Whitebeard raised his head and said, And that fellow John? What a coincidence. Yuan smiled, but the smile was a little cold. John. The grudge between the two was deep. Yuan had no affection for John. Let's go, they're just a bunch of asshole Tianlong pigs, no need to make a fuss. Seeing that everything was almost ready, Whitebeard called for Yuan to get on board and set off. A vast sea. The marine fleet was escorting the newly confiscated heavenly gold and protecting a group of celestial dragons who were heading towards the holy land of Marihoa. The huge ship in the middle is where the celestial dragons gather. Several celestial dragons commanded human slaves to crawl on the ground like dogs and attack each other with their mouths for fun. A mermaid girl had her tail pierced by an iron hook and was dragged into the room by a celestial dragon. Soon, shrill screams were heard. It was all extremely absurd. Suddenly, the reconnaissance marine shouted loudly, Alert! Alert! There's a pirate ship ahead! If you look down from the sky at this time, on the blue sea, the two fleets were heading towards each other. The fleet ships flying pirate flags suddenly dispersed, and quickly moved from both wings, surrounding the marine fleet. Oh no! It's the Rocks pirates! Whitebeard! John! And Casa Yun! This time, Yun was finally recognized. Request support! The Marines were stunned when they saw the incoming pirates. Their highest commander is only a Marine Vice Admiral. How to fight against big pirates like Whitebeard and John? Damn pirates, you actually disturbed my pleasure. Hurry up and gather Garp and the others over to kill all these pirates for me. Kill them all, these filthy pirates are not even worthy of being slaves. The high and mighty Tianlong people have not realized the seriousness of the matter and are still arrogantly giving orders. Little did they know. The Shinigami is approaching step by step. Boom! 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 Countless shells were fired, threatening the pirate ship and preventing it from getting close. How could the battle-hardened pirates be frightened by artillery fire? Several pirate ships rushed into the marine fleet under fire, charging onto the ships without fear of life or death, disrupting the Marines' rhythm. The main ship, under the protection of the other pirate ships, arrived in front of the Marine fleet unscathed. Kulala! Guys, let's show these dragon pigs and Marines how powerful pirates are! Whitebeard raised his arms and shouted. The pirates rushed forward and immediately fought with the Marine, and the scene became chaotic. Huh! It's actually a fleet transporting gold from the sky. We're going to make a fortune now. John discovered something, shouted excitedly, drew out his rapier and rushed forward to kill. Whitebeard! Do you know what you are doing? The world government will not let you go. A Marine Vice Admiral roared with gritted teeth. It seems that he naively wants to drink Whitebeard away. Kulala! Let them come if they can. Whitebeard laughed disdainfully, and his burly figure suddenly jumped up and rushed towards the Marine Vice Admiral. Yuan didn't pay attention to what happened next. How could a mere Vice Admiral Marine possibly be a match for Whitebeard? He released Shadow Yuan and quickly gathered the Marine soldiers' shadows. At the same time, they rushed towards the main ship in the middle. Bang! With one punch, he knocked a Marine who was missing a shadow away, and Yuan landed on the deck. At first glance, I saw several figures wearing glass helmets. In front of them were humans who were treated as dogs. Damn you, you dirty fellow, this is the only place you can come to. Go, bite him to death for me, the young master. A celestial dragon kicked hard on the slave who was crawling on the ground in front of him. Woof! 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 The human slave screamed, his eyes filled with fear and despair. In such a situation, he still dares not speak, which shows how much torture he has suffered to become like this. The smile on Yuan's face faded little by little, and now it was completely cold. The anger in my heart was more intense than ever before. Only when I saw it with my own eyes did I realize how damnable the celestial dragons really are. All of you go to hell! Yuan growled, his pupils suddenly shrinking. Conquerors Kamui. Shock and kill. Now Kamui can not only control it freely, but also kill these useless celestial dragons with ease. Those celestial dragons didn't even utter a scream or wail before they all fell to the ground and gradually died. Yun's chest heaved. He swung his sword several times in succession, cutting off the chains of the slaves. Without stopping, he quickly rushed into the cabin. In the middle of the room, there was a mermaid girl hanging. He was naked, covered in blood, with his scales broken and falling off, and was already dying. The celestial dragon who tortured her had been killed. Yun rescued the mermaid and went to the next room, where he was once again blinded by the sight before him. One by one, beautiful human girls are being branded with the mark of the sky-soaring dragon's hoof, marking their indelible slave status. Their eyes were like those of timid deer, full of despair. They were all captured slaves, waiting to be taken to Marihoa to be trained and played with by the celestial dragons. These beasts! Yuan swung his knife to cut their chains, but for a moment he didn't know what to say. My identity is a pirate. Should we take them back to Beehive Island? Just rescued from the tiger's den and sent to the wolf's den? It's better not to save him. Why did you kill the master? If the master dies, our family will not survive. You pirates deserve to die. While Yuan was hesitating, the human slaves outside suddenly rushed in with knives and axes and chopped at Yuan. Yun's face turned completely dark. Kicked away the slave who was rushing forward. I wanted to say something, but I opened my mouth but found that there was nothing to say. The other slaves also gathered around him, looking like they wanted to chop Yun into pieces. Buzz. Conqueror's dominance is released. Yun did not kill them, but they fell asleep temporarily. How to deal with this fucking thing? He cursed and walked out of the cabin, walking towards the last room with a headache. The two Tianlong people in the room had fallen to the ground and had no breath. On the table, there is a spiral-patterned fruit. A dark-colored katana leaned against the table. Devil fruit? Yun's expression changed slightly. Suddenly someone broke in behind him. Huh! There is actually a devil fruit! Wait! This is… John ignored Yun, walked directly past Yun to the table, grabbed the katana, and suddenly pulled out the scabbard. Zheng! The cold light flickered like snow, and the room was immediately filled with a sharp meaning. Good knife. Yun was slightly shocked. This is a better knife than Blue Flame. Is it the supreme sharp knife? John's eyes showed greedy light, and his expression was extremely excited. He said excitedly, It is actually the reincarnation path of the 12 skills of the supreme sharp sword. Ha ha! This is Laozi's treasure! He played with the way of samsara, and looked like he couldn't put it down. For John, who loves to collect treasures, the supreme sharp knife cannot be refused. As for Yuan behind him, John didn't take him seriously at all. The last time I was robbed of my treasure by Laozi, I didn't dare to say anything. If he is really ignorant, Laozi doesn't mind teaching him a lesson. Just when John was feeling proud, Yun's cold voice came from behind. John, put down the knife and get out of here! Yun's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Does John really think that he is still the same person half a month ago, when he ignores himself so much? What's more, it's the path of reincarnation, a precious sword that ranks among the 12 skills of the supreme sharp sword. How could he just watch John be snatched away from him? What did you say? John turned his head in disbelief, as if he couldn't believe his ears. Yun, this bastard, dares to scold himself? The knife belongs to Laozi. Stay here and get out, Yun said unceremoniously. If John doesn't know what's good, he doesn't mind helping Rox clean up the house. John's face gradually darkened, and he said sadly, Yun, no one here can help you. You are worthy enough to fight Laozi for a knife. He stared at Yun coldly, his aura slowly released, and he had no intention of returning the reincarnation path. He even put away the devil fruit provocatively. The provocative eyes seemed to say, Laozi robbed your things, what can you do? Jun! Blue flame, the blade suddenly shook, making a crisp and bright sound. The flame lines seemed to flow, turning into blazing flames, and the blade was pointed directly at Jun. Then go die! Yun didn't say anything nonsense, and suddenly slashed down with his sword. Laozi is already in a bad mood, and you still come to provoke Laozi, then go to hell. Let's see if the Lord of Hell will let you take your treasure to hell. The bright blue sword light appeared in front of John's eyes instantly. Yun didn't know about the path of reincarnation. He only knew about those famous supreme swords. But John would not admit his mistake. And this is the situation now. Even if Yun didn't want the path of samsara, he couldn't give it to John. Not to mention, Yun also wants to own a supreme sword. He had previously thought about studying sword forging techniques, wanting to make himself an unrivaled sword, but time was always tight, and he was immersed in practice and had no free time. Now I finally come across an unrivaled sword. How dare John shamelessly possess her? This time, Yun won't tolerate it. Yun had already remembered John's repeated provocations. Today, let's settle old scores together. Huh! You're looking for death. John was furious. This kid actually dared to do it? After he reacted, he immediately dodged the oncoming attack, not forgetting to hang the path of samsara on his waist, and at the same time drew out 2 western swords, turning around to meet the attack. He is not afraid of Yun. So what if you are a genius? Laozi has been traveling the seas for many years. How could he be afraid of a mere kid like you? Ding ding ding! Blue flame collided with the western sword countless times in the blink of an eye. Yun's figure was steady, and his attacks became more and more powerful, which made John feel horrified. How come your strength has improved so much? John's face turned pale and he couldn't help but yell. Respond to him. It was Yun's indifference. There was also a deep blue slash. Boom! A violent roar erupted in the cabin. After another short and fierce confrontation. Boom! A figure rushed out of the cabin and staggered onto the deck. It was John. The sinister smile had long disappeared, his face was as gloomy as water, and his numb arms made John doubt whether the person in front of him was Yun. He found it hard to believe that Yun's strength could be improved to such a terrifying level. Even I myself am at a disadvantage. Yun, with murderous intent, walked out of the cabin step by step, staring at John with bright eyes as deep as the ocean, making the latter feel cold. Yun! John! What are you doing? Whitebeard led his troops to eliminate most of the Marines. When they sensed the fluctuations in the battle, they immediately rushed here, but found that it was a fight among their own people. The genin kept shouting. Newgate! This guy doesn't follow the captain's rules, kill him quickly! John rolled his eyes and shouted immediately. It would be great if Whitebeard could join forces with me to kill Yun. Yun, what happened? Whitebeard frowned, not believing John's one-sided statement at all, and turned to ask Yun. Yun was too lazy to explain, and just said calmly. It's a personal grudge, I will kill him today. Bullshit! Just you? John roared back, never letting up. Just stop it. If you have anything to say, we can talk to Captain Rox after we go back. Whitebeard strode forward with the yunxia in his hand. It was obviously intended to stop the two from fighting. Yun raised his head slightly, looked at the burly figure full of domineering power, and said coldly, Newgate, I said it was a personal grudge. If you want to stop it, then can I assume that you want to help this bastard in front of you? While talking, he didn't give Whitebeard any face at all. Whitebeard frowned, his eyes flashed with dangerous light, and he suddenly shouted, Are you provoking Laozi? He didn't want to get involved. But Yun's words provoked Whitebeard. This slightly angered Whitebeard. Yun sneered in his heart. If Kaido and Linlin were here, Even the Golden Lion Shiki would work together to kill John first. There is still a big difference between Whitebeard and them. Whatever you think. In that case, you two can come together. Yuan took a deep breath. A dark shadow seemed to flow in his eyes, and his aura suddenly became deep. Hundreds of shadows emerged from his own shadow, like the king's attendants. Boom! A burst of incomparable and domineering aura rose into the sky. The surrounding sea water was rolling violently, as if feeling a strong sense of uneasiness. Yuan was clearly standing there from beginning to end, but he looked completely different. The domineering and arrogant aura all over his body is frightening. An unprecedented power burst out from Yuan's body. A shadowy cloak suddenly formed behind him. The shadow cloak fluttered in the wind the moment it was formed, and a layer of extreme illusory shadow spread out from under his feet, covering not only the giant ship, but even the sea water and all other ships. This shadow seems to have no substance, but it can make people feel real existence. Whitebeard and John's faces changed drastically at the same time. What's going on? Why does Lousy feel suppressed? John was shocked. At this moment, he felt as if he had seen a ghost. Yun's terror was far beyond his imagination. Whitebeard's eyes widened and gleamed with brilliance, and he whispered, "Could it be that the fruit has awakened?" He felt incredible. How long has Yun been using the shadow fruit? Can he actually reach the awakened form? At this moment, Whitebeard felt a little confused. It is really hard to understand Yuan's perversion. But this does not affect his strong self-confidence. Instead of retreating, he took a step forward and shouted, "Kulala! This is more interesting. Let Lousy see how strong you are." Whitebeard was no longer standing up for John, but was rather excited to see the prey. He wanted to fight with Un to see what strength the most terrifying monster of the Rocks pirates had. He made a big statement. "The increase in strength after awakening is indeed terrifying." Yuan murmured quietly in his heart, feeling the power flowing through his body, and his mood became more open and cheerful than ever before. "This is the first time I feel so open after traveling through time. Now I can finally survive in the cracks without having to compromise. Lousy already has the power to fight those monsters." "Ha ha ha! Newgate! Come on!" There was a light in Yuan's eyes, as captivating as Kamui. As Whitebeard's aura was fully unleashed, his fighting spirit was also fully aroused. It was indeed a pleasure to fight Whitebeard in the first battle after awakening. Let Lousy see how strong the strongest man is now after 40 years. Accompanied by laughter, Yuan suddenly jumped out, and Blue Flame released a dazzling blue light. Waves of flames and sword energy shuttled back and forth, making it impossible to open one's eyes. Sniff. The first dark arc appeared. Like a chain reaction, countless arcs of electricity swirled around Yun's body. Blue Flame suddenly burst out with an even more terrifying sharpness. Conqueror's Kamui, Tangle. Whitebeard's inner energy bursts forth. An indescribable wave of terror lingered from Yunxia. Also cast Conqueror's entanglement. Thunder and lightning roared suddenly in the sky, and countless dark clouds covered the clear sky without anyone noticing, creating a scene of doomsday destruction. A look of fear flashed across John's face. He never thought that Yun could launch such a terrifying attack, which was no weaker than Whitebeard. Even Conqueror's Haki is not inferior to Whitebeard. What the hell is this monster? John was horrified. He didn't want to fight with Yuan anymore, and even had an urge to run away immediately. If I had known this freak was so scary, why would I have provoked him? John had 1,800,000 regrets in his heart. What is that? The pirates on the surrounding ships looked behind Yuan and said tremblingly. They seemed to see a shadowy figure wearing a crown behind Yuan, but when they looked closely, they could see nothing. Yuan is actually going to fight Captain Newgate. The captain is so powerful! After the pirates saw the two figures fighting each other clearly, they were all numb. Aren't we from the same pirate group? Why does it look like a life and death battle? Has anyone ever considered our life or death? The wind and clouds are changing. Lan Yan and Song Yinxia had a thorough confrontation. Even before the collision, the burst of momentum caused a destructive wave. Boom! A blinding white light flashed from where the blades collided. An extremely powerful impact force spread out, and several nearby ships were blown away. The waves are rolling like boiling water. A huge crack suddenly appeared in the dark cloud sky. It was as if someone swung a knife and split the sky in half. The scene was extremely horrifying. Damn it! How can he be so strong? Newgate! You must get rid of this guy. John was numb. He prayed that Whitebeard would defeat Yun, so that he could take the opportunity to get rid of Yun and eliminate the trouble forever. The center of the storm. Boom! There was a loud bang. Two figures retreated at the same time. The deck under my feet was completely broken and cracked, as if it was about to be unable to withstand the force it was supposed to bear. Kulala! So satisfying! I never thought you would become so strong without making any noise. Is this the fruit's awakened form? Whitebeard steadied his burly body, clenched the kanjionki in his hand, and laughed loudly. He now finally recognized Yuan, which was equivalent to giving Yuan respect. Yuan also took several steps back before he could stabilize himself. He raised his head slightly, feeling the power surging in his body, and his fighting spirit surged. Newgate! Come on! Let me see the power of the tremor fruit! Have to say, Yuan is so cunning. He said this because he wanted to experience the power of the tremor fruit in battle. Once he truly comprehends it, he will possess the power of the tremor fruit. A business that is sure to make money. Kulala! The power of the tremor fruit will cause everyone to be submerged in a tsunami. Whitebeard laughed heartily and was unwilling to use the tremor fruit. What a joke. This is at sea, there is no need to choose such a stupid act to commit suicide. Yun felt sorry. Just as Yun and Whitebeard were about to continue fighting, they were suddenly interrupted by a laugh. Ha ha! I actually ran into such an interesting thing. Hello, Newgate. Long time no see. Eh? Who is this guy you're fighting with? You guys were the one who caused the Conqueror's collision just now? A pirate ship was approaching rapidly. A figure with a mustache was standing on the mast at the bow, greeting everyone with a bright smile. Oh my God! Roger? Yuan was stunned. I actually saw the future One Piece? Kulala la la! Roger, I didn't expect to meet a bastard like you here. Whitebeard felt an even stronger desire to fight, as if he felt that things were becoming more and more interesting. Asshole Newgate! Speak politely to Lousy. Roger laughed and drew the sword from his waist ace. It is also one of the 12 supreme swords. Judging from his posture, he is obviously ready to attack. Roger! Stop messing around here, this is a civil war within the Rocks Pirates, don't get involved. The blond man with glasses and a slightly gentle look walked forward and said with a helpless look on his face. One Piece Deputy Rayleigh? Rayleigh was still very young at this time. And it gives people a strong feeling. If someone was really fooled by his gentle and handsome appearance with glasses, they would die without knowing how they died. Civil War? Hey brother, are you also from the Rocks Pirates? Roger looked at Yuan and asked with interest. Rayleigh said helplessly. Roger! Haven't you seen his wanted poster? He is Yun, the guy who is known as the most perverted monster in the Rocks Pirates. But, is he that strong? It doesn't match the bounty on the wanted poster at all. Yuan twitched his lips. It is acceptable to say that Lousy is a monster. Where did the name of pervert come from? So you are Yun. Ha ha ha, this is so funny. Join us! Roger laughed and extended a sincere invitation to Yuan. Rayleigh almost fell down. Roger! What are you doing? These are Rock's crew members. Roger smiled nonchalantly and said, Ha ha ha, what's the matter? Lousy thinks he is a very interesting guy. Whitebeard twitched the corner of his mouth, speechless at Roger's reckless behavior. John's face turned even livid. After all, I am one of the cadres. Roger never looked at me from beginning to end and completely ignored me. Damn, what kind of magic power does that Yuan have? At this moment, John suddenly hoped that Yuan would agree to Roger's recruitment, and then Rox would kill Yuan himself. Yuan was surprised by Roger's recruitment, but not so surprised by his behavior style. He shook his head and said hello. Roger, nice to meet you, even if the atmosphere isn't that friendly. Just join your pirate group. Roger shook his head with regret. That's such a pity. But there is something I want to trouble you with. Yuan suddenly spoke, his tone natural as if it was not the first time they met. What's the matter? Roger asked curiously. Can you help me stop Newgate? I'm going to kill someone, Yuan said with a smile, not feeling that this request was unreasonable at all. Huh? Roger was stunned for a moment and asked in surprise. Who are you going to kill? Hey, that bastard John. Yuan turned his head and gestured. Ha 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 ha. Roger suddenly burst into laughter. You actually let Lousy help you with your own pirate group's affairs? Just when everyone thought Roger would refuse, Rayleigh had already covered his cheeks helplessly with a helpless smile on his face. Lousy won't help you, Roger said firmly. Then the subject changed. Newgate. Do it. Whitebeard. John. Rayleigh. I knew this would happen. John was confused and even wondered if he had heard it wrong. That bastard Roger clearly said he would not interfere, so why did he suddenly change his face and attack Whitebeard? After witnessing the power that Yuan had just unleashed, he felt even more unsure. Whitebeard was obviously stunned for a moment. His eyes gradually narrowed, revealing a hint of sharpness. Roger! You want to interfere in the affairs of our pirate group? Roger said nonchalantly. Lousy is not interfering in your affairs. We are all enemies, so what if Lousy attacks you? John's eyes suddenly widened. Is it still possible to play like this? Roger is such a jerk. Goo-la-la-la-la. In that case, Lousy will let you know the price of meddling in other people's business. Whitebeard seemed too lazy to care about the grudge between Yuan and John, and picked up Murasakibara and rushed towards Roger. Ha! Good job! Roger rushed out also laughing. The two of them fought fiercely. Yuan just took a look and found it boring. It was just a simple physical duel, and neither of them took it seriously. Perhaps they knew in their hearts that killing the other party was not an easy task, so they could not help but let him off a little. Whitebeard looked more like he was looking for an excuse not to get into a conflict with Yuan. Anyway, no matter what the situation is, all mean one thing. Yuan can trouble John now. We are facing the Roger pirates now. If you attack me at this time, you are betraying Captain Rox. John roared, his face gloomy. Yuan said slowly. Kill you, and then I will deal with Roger. Ha ha. Brother Yuan, if you want to deal with Lousy, you'd better act quickly. When Roger heard that Yuan still wanted to deal with him, he was not angry, but found it amusing instead. How could a guy with this style of behavior be hanging out with those bastards from the Rox Pirates? Do you need help, little brother? Rayleigh leaned against the mast, holding a small iron kettle, took a sip of wine, and asked jokingly. He didn't seem to be worried about the fight between Roger and Whitebeard at all, and had no intention of intervening. Forget about helping me. After all, I will cause trouble for you later. Yuan smiled, very frankly. This frankness is a manifestation of self-confidence. Only when you truly master the power can you have the confidence to speak. Rayleigh smiled and said nothing more. He was very curious about what a rookie pirate could achieve. Could he really kill John? Rayleigh was a little suspicious of Yuan's overconfidence. Don't go too far. John's face turned pale, and he didn't know how to stop Yuan from causing trouble for him. To be more precise, it is killing oneself. The murderous intent in Yuan was too obvious. Stop talking nonsense! Why didn't you think about the consequences when you repeatedly caused trouble for me? Yuan decisively draws his sword. The figure seemed to be shrouded in an illusory shadow, filled with a strong sense of oppression. The awakened form did not have the earth-shaking changes that Nika's awakening had, but it was just as powerful. Suddenly a knife slashed out. Blue arc of light streaks across the sky. Appeared in front of John. John waved his rapier to block the attack and said sternly, "Do you really think Lousy is easy to bully?" The rapier flickered slightly, and he attacked in anger, suddenly bursting out with fierce killing moves, each move stabbing at Yun's vitals. John is a famous pirate after all, and his strength is still very strong. Yun waved the blue flame with one hand and made a sudden move with the other hand. Shadow Yun appears. Buzz. The invisible shadow seemed to spread like a tide in an instant. Darkin Realm Initiate. Field Expansion. Shadow Yun's strength has skyrocketed, and Yun has wrapped it with armament-colored divine armor, which has an unparalleled defensive power. He fearlessly pounced on John, catching him off guard. "What the hell is this?" John roared, but retreated again and again. His attacks had no effect on this shadow at all. And why do I feel like I'm being suppressed? Suddenly, an invisible force appeared around. What on earth is going on? What a powerful ability! Has the shadow fruit awakened? Rayleigh murmured. This guy, is he really a newcomer on your ship? The tyrannical fluctuations he showed just now are not at the level of an ordinary cadre. Kulala! Yun has always been a pervert, but it's incredible to think that he can develop the ordinary shadow fruit to such a level. Whitebeard and Roger also paid attention to Yun, and were amazed at the methods he displayed. This is Yun's first battle after his true awakening. No one expected that he would have so many methods. Yun sneered, and his own strength surged again. When you are in the Darkin realm, your strength will double. His strength now completely surpasses John. And this is without using the amplifying effects of the demonic shadow form and the 10,000 shadow battle armor. If Yun merged with his own shadow at this time, the surge in combat power would be terrifying under the bonus of the domain. Yun's figure suddenly disappeared. John was horrified and retreated quickly without caring about the shadow Yun who was harassing him. Even if he used his observation haki, he was still a step slower. Or say, his seeing and hearing color is not as good as Yun's seeing and hearing color and spiritual consciousness. Puff. There was a hissing sound in the air. A fierce fist suddenly magnified in John's eyes and landed heavily on his chest. Cough, 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 cough. John flew out backwards, his face flushed. Before he could stabilize his figure, he was attacked continuously. Yun and Shadow Yun attacked continuously, not giving John any chance to breathe. Just a few minutes. John's figure became miserable. One of the two Western swords was blown away, and now there was only one Western sword left in his hand. He felt an extreme sense of powerlessness in his heart. Facing Yun, he couldn't show his strength at all. To put it bluntly, we were crushed in all aspects. His knowledge and experience are not as good as Yun's. His physique and armament color are even inferior to Yun. Besides, Yun hasn't used tyranny yet. Why are Captain John and Captain Yun fighting? Captain John is no match for the opponent. He is totally suppressed. How can Captain Yun be so strong? It's been less than a month since he joined the pirate banquet. He was just a rookie pirate back then. The pirates around were all stunned. I don't understand what's going on with John and Yun's fight. I don't understand how Yun's strength has increased so much. This is totally different from the person at the pirate banquet. Even when they fought the warring states not long ago, they were not so fierce. John knew very well that he was no match for Yun and had already started trying to find a way to resolve the fight. Wait! John gasped for air. I admit defeat. I can apologize to you. I will give you the path of reincarnation and the devil fruit. And I will return all the treasures I stole from you last time when I go back. How about we put an end to the feud between you and me? Whitebeard also shouted. That's enough. We've really overdone it. We won't be able to explain to Captain Rox. Whitebeard thought that Yun should calm down, and tried to dissuade him. Rayleigh was watching eagerly from the side. If something unexpected happens, it will be troublesome. John felt a little relieved when he heard Whitebeard speak. I was glad that it wasn't those two crazy guys Kaido and Linlin who came. Otherwise, they would definitely ignore Roger's pirate group and would definitely attack him. Yuen said calmly. Knife, devil fruit. John breathed a sigh of relief. Throw reincarnation path, and the devil fruit to Yuen. Yuen took the path of reincarnation and the devil fruit. You use your spiritual sense to perceive the ability of the animal type, ancient species, mammoth form, and your understanding of the power of the devil fruit becomes more profound. Yuen had a feeling in his heart. Now I can comprehend the second devil fruit ability. But now is not the time to comprehend abilities. He just wanted to see what the power of this devil fruit was. It's just an ancient species, and in the form of a mammoth, so I'm a little disappointed. I don't really need an animal-type devil fruit myself. Instead, he began to take an interest in the Logia devil fruit. After learning about devil fruits, Yuen put it away, then slowly grasped the hilt of Walking of Samsara, and slowly pulled out the blade. Jung. The sharp sound of the blade is very pleasant to the ear. The first thought that came to Yuen's mind was, what a nice knife. It is heavier to hold than blue flame. The blade is as bright as snow and shines with luster. It is not like the blue flame, which is full of patterns, but it has a kind of thorough cleanliness. One glance at it will make people feel that this is a precious sword that is not stained with blood. The blade is a bit thick, but it does not affect its sharpness at all. The most amazing thing is that when Yuen's consciousness carefully sensed it, he seemed to be able to sense the ethereal will of the knife itself. It is indeed the supreme sword. Reincarnation path. Yuen was very pleased with the knife. Whitebeard and Roger, who were fighting on the side, both looked surprised. That's the supreme great sword 12 works, Path of Samsara? It's the same level of precious sword as Laozi's ace and your bastard Kusanokiri. This is such a coincidence, a total of 10 supreme swords, and we have 3 here, ha 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 ha. Roger burst into laughter, his eyes revealing a hint of curiosity about the path of reincarnation. Different from other supreme swords. The existence of reincarnation path is even longer. It seems to be just like its name, appearing like reincarnation. Even more mysterious than the demon sword Kitetsu. Because no one knows the origin of reincarnation path. No wonder he wanted to attack John. It turns out he wanted to fight for the supreme sword. Whitebeard understood. It is normal for pirates to fight over treasures. But once the problem is solved, it should be fine. But the path of reincarnation actually fell into Yuen's hands. Is this a coincidence? Whitebeard muttered in his heart. But the next second, Whitebeard's expression suddenly froze. Clang! Path of reincarnation is completely unsheathed. The blade emitted a sharp cold light. Yun's murderous intent burst out. The knife was pointed directly at John. What are you going to do? Laozi has already given you the knife. John shouted in panic, not understanding why Yun suddenly turned against him. I'm sorry, I didn't agree to your conditions just now. Yuen had a cold expression on his face, and he didn't look like he was joking at all. And Laozi wants to sacrifice your life to the knife. As soon as these words came out, a surge of murderous intent rose from Yuen, stronger than ever before. Even the way of reincarnation in his hand seemed to be trembling slightly, and the snow-white light became brighter and brighter. You bastard! John cursed loudly and quickly retreated, trying to escape. Roger looked unhappy and said disappointedly, After getting the treasure, you actually went back on your word. This is really the style of your Rocks Pirates. He thought Yun was different from the other members of the Rocks Pirates. Now it seems that it is also insidious and cunning. At this moment, Roger no longer had any intention of recruiting Yuen. He thought that since Yuen had accepted the wheel of reincarnation and the devil fruit, he had agreed to John's conditions, and it would be unfair for him to go back on his word now. Although they were all enemies, Roger still felt uncomfortable. Whitebeard's expression changed. Yuen wants to kill John. How can I explain this when I go back? He knew Rock's character very well. If Yuan dared to act recklessly, he would definitely be punished when he returned. It may even implicate yourself. Damn it, Yoon, that's too much. Yuan doesn't bother to care about other people's attitudes and opinions. The idea of killing John has been going on for a long time. Blade of Samsara, heavenly might! Conqueror's Kamui entanglement. Suddenly, arcs of lightning roared. Thousands of lightning bolts flashed around Yuan, like a vast ocean of thunder. He raised the path of Samsara in his hand high, and countless sword chi swirled into an illusory blade, which slashed down with a bang as Yuan rushed forward. The whole sky was eclipsed at this moment. It seemed as if Yun's sword really represented the might of heaven. Extremely domineering. What powerful conquerors! Roger's eyes were shocked. In his heart, he already considered Yuan as his rival. This conqueror's strength is comparable to mine. But how old is this kid? Where did this monster come from? Rayleigh looked solemn, with a sense of crisis in his heart. This lunatic! Whitebeard cursed. You can't kill me! John yelled in horror. The force of the knife behind him did not decrease at all. Splitting blade kill! John, who was at his wits' end, shouted loudly, turned around quickly, and swung out a fatal sword. The western sword in his hand instantly split into countless shadows. It was as if countless swords were stabbing out from all directions, making it impossible to defend against them. Yuan's expression remained unchanged, and he remained as cold as ever. Cut it down with one sword. Thousands of sword shadows instantly turned into foamy shadows and dissipated. No matter how fancy you are, Laozi only takes one move. There is an incomparable arrogance in Yuan. John could not resist the power of Kamui's entanglement. Boom! The blade fell. An attack like a Kamui falling from the sky suddenly enveloped John. The surroundings suddenly exploded, and countless shock waves spread, making it impossible to open one's eyes. John, who was at the center, had a blood mist spreading all over his body, his eyes wide open, and he was dying in disbelief. Until his death, he never thought that he would die at the hands of Yuan. A kid who had just joined the pirate group for less than a month could actually kill himself. The shadow of John, who died with his eyes open, was snatched away by Yuan at the last moment, so it was not a waste at all. Crash, crash. The waves are rolling. The storm gradually subsided. Revealed the scene inside. John fell on the broken deck and luckily did not sink into the sea. Captain John is dead? Oh my God! What happened? Why did Captain Yoon kill Captain John? The pirates around were trembling with fear, fearing that they would be the ones to be killed next. You actually killed him! Whitebeard widened his eyes, glared at Yuan, and shouted. How cruel! Rayleigh commented silently. Roger stopped fighting with Whitebeard, his eyes flickering. No one expected it. Yuan actually killed John. Whitebeard felt very angry and had a headache. It is clear that foreign enemies are here, but such a situation occurs, which is really difficult to handle. And what shocked him even more was Yoon's progress. If it continues to grow, to what extent will it reach? It doesn't seem impossible to surpass rocks and become the new pirate overlord. Rayleigh squinted and frowned. The ability of the shadow fruit. It's really amazing that an ordinary paramecia can be developed to this extent. The pirates of the Rocks pirates were a little frightened and full of fear of Yoon. Their impression of Yoon is still that young man who stood out at the pirate banquet and was promoted by Captain Rocks. Now it changes in the blink of an eye. He actually stood at a height that was difficult for them to look up to. Yoon looked indifferent to the reactions around him and ignored the dead John. Even though John is famous, he still ends up becoming a zombie in Moria in the original work. Perhaps John was born with a conflict with those with shadow fruit abilities. Roger, it's time to deal with you now. Yoon turned around and looked at Roger with a fighting spirit. Ha ha! Come on! Let Laozi see how strong the newcomers of the Rocks pirates are. Roger laughed loudly, his body also burning with fighting spirit. Rayleigh suddenly took a step forward and said, Even if you can kill John, We don't have the habit of letting the captain be challenged as soon as we come up. As the deputy captain, Rayleigh will not let anyone get close to his captain. Ha ha ha, it's okay Rayleigh, lousy play with him. Roger stepped forward and patted Rayleigh on the shoulder. Rayleigh looked extremely helpless. This captain really doesn't care about anything and only acts according to his temper. But as a deputy captain, he is very qualified and will not contradict the captain's orders, at least in front of outsiders. Whitebeard was no longer in the mood to take action at this moment. Holding the Tsong Yunchi, he stood aside, ready to watch the battle between Yoon and Roger. Rayleigh glanced at him silently, and also stopped aside to prevent Whitebeard from making a sudden move. I have to say, Roger was able to become a pirate, and Rayleigh definitely made a huge contribution. The formations of both sides quietly opened up. Yoon and Roger took 2 steps forward at the same time. Roger looked at the supremely sharp knife in Yun's hand and laughed heartily. Reincarnation Dao, I've heard of his name a long time ago. Today I just want to show Lousy what's so special about this knife. Yoon nodded. I've heard of Ace for a long time too. Of course, Roger didn't know the meaning behind Yun's words. Yoon did not use Blue Flame, but suddenly rushed out with Reincarnation Path in his hand, like a ray of light speeding through the air, extremely fast. Roger's eyes narrowed slightly, and his expression gradually became serious. He looks carefree, but when he fights he is unambiguous. Ace swings. The slash fell suddenly. Bang! Yoon swung his sword to block the oncoming slash, then suddenly rose up and slashed down with the sword in both hands. Roger swung his sword forward. Boom! The 2 powerful men collided for the first time. The seawater below was pushed downwards by the strong impact. The sky was full of strong winds dancing wildly, and the chaotic air currents made it difficult to open one's eyes. Whitebeard narrowed his eyes slightly and muttered, Normally speaking, physical fitness requires step-by-step practice and training to reach a better level. Yoon's physical strength has grown to a level that is no weaker than ours just by eating. He's simply more of a natural monster than Lin Lin. Even Whitebeard has to admire Yoon's talent. Now his courage is no less powerful than legendary pirates such as Roger and Whitebeard. Golden muscles and jade bones. Steel balloon. It's not a decoration. Especially the appearance of golden muscles and jade bones is enough to save Yoon a month of time. Ha ha ha, you don't look like a newcomer. Roger grinned, but he was extremely surprised in his heart. At such a young age, he can fight against me head-on without losing. What kind of monster is he? Anyway, it's all about strength. Newcomers don't matter. Yoon responded with a smile. Roger's sense of oppression is very strong. But he can still laugh now, which means he still has energy left. Ding! 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 The 2 men swung their swords at the same time in perfect harmony. Samsara and Ace burst into muffled noises. After a frantic battle, Yoon and Roger retreated at the same time to distance themselves from each other. It's incredible. I can actually be as strong as the captain? Rayleigh pushed up his glasses, his eyes full of shock. There was news that Yoon was almost killed by Sengoku and Garp a few days ago. With Yun's strength, even if Sengoku and Garp join forces, they probably won't be able to defeat him in a short time, right? Rayleigh thought silently in his heart. He didn't believe that Yuan's physique had grown suddenly. It was something too outrageous for Rayleigh to imagine. Hey! It's almost time to go. The Marines are surrounding us. Whitebeard suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. On the sea, Marine warships with flags flying are approaching here rapidly. The ones being attacked were the celestial dragons. How could Marine not take it seriously? You're here so soon? Roger frowned and said that he hadn't had enough fun yet. Are you interested in doing something big and killing these Marines together? Yuan invited Roger with a smile. Yuan has not forgotten the loss he suffered at the hands of Zhang Gua and Garp last time. So take it out on Marine. What's more, after seeing what the celestial dragons did, he had no good impression of their lackey Marine. Everyone is scolding Marine for claiming to be righteous, and it makes sense. The group of slaves rescued by Yuan and the slaves who wanted to kill Yuan fought desperately with the pirates after waking up and were all killed. Only a group of girls were left in the cabin. When fighting, Yuan deliberately avoided the cabin behind him, not wanting them to be affected. But Yuan had no control over what impact the fierce battle just now would have on them. When Roger heard Yuan's proposal, his eyes widened. "Ha ha ha, you are really a lunatic, but Laozi is not interested in going crazy with you." He turned his head to look in the direction where Marine was coming from and shook his head to reject Yuan's suggestion. "I see. What about the last trick?" Yuan raised his eyebrows and invited. "Come!" Roger took a sharp step back and held Ace high in the air. Swish! Electric arcs suddenly appeared around the blade. Then it spread to Roger's body. Ace was now surrounded by a layer of strange color, as if something was flowing on the blade. "God avoid!" Roger shouted and swung the knife in his hand suddenly. Break time! The sky and earth change color. The waves roar. Yun took up his stance. Shadow Yun merges and activates the magic shadow form. The surrounding area is always expanding and maintaining an amplification state. The path of reincarnation suddenly became bright. As Conqueror's Kamui dissipated, the blade also began to flow with a beautiful luster. Instantly, countless arcs of electricity suddenly emerged from the void and swirled around Yuan's body. Reincarnation, wrath of heaven! Mood can influence weather changes. It's not just talk. The domineering power that erupted from Yuan and Roger at the same time made the surroundings look like a doomsday scene. All creatures in the ocean fled in panic. Certainly, many more were unable to escape from the range of this powerful aura and floated on the sea with their bellies turned upside down. Looking around, it's all white. It's like gold, silver, and jewels thrown into the sea and floating on the surface. All kinds of marine fish were floating on the sea's surface in a state of unconsciousness. What a spectacular sight! Once upon a time, Yun was also amazed at the power of rocks to cause changes in heaven and earth. To this day, you can do that yourself. Ghosts and gods avoid it. The power of God's wrath. Yuan and Roger were like two immeasurable demons descending to the world, bombarding each other with extremely terrifying power. Buzz! Boom! A shocking explosion. In an instant, an irresistible impact was formed and swept around. The two figures in the center were completely submerged in the dazzling light. Has the fight reached this point? Rayleigh's eyes were solemn, and his respect for Yuan increased to the same level as Rock's. He may not be as strong as Rock's now, but in time, it will definitely become the second Rock's. Even beyond Rock's. This is how Rayleigh judges Yuan. Although Yun relied on the power of the devil fruit to fight Roger to this point, no one can deny his strength. Isn't the devil fruit also considered as one's own power? Whitebeard slowly tightened his grip on the handle of the Kusunokiri knife, and in his heart he already regarded Yuan as a monster of equal strength. Marine warships speeding in the distance. Garp and Sengoku stood side by side, staring at the battle that was erupting with destructive power. It's definitely not the Marines fighting. Could it be the strong men from the world government? Garp looked confused and puzzled. No, if there were powerful people from the world government on board, they wouldn't have informed us so urgently. Wait, that's Roger's aura! Jean Guo was halfway through his speech when he suddenly froze for a moment, and his tone changed. Extremely surprised. It's indeed Roger's Ba-chan! Ha ha ha, it looks like he's going to fight the Rock's pirates. Garp snapped his fingers, looking like he was ready for a big fight. If we can capture Roger and the Rock's pirates here, the sea will be much calmer. But who was the person fighting Roger? Newgate? Shiki? It doesn't sound like their aura. Jean Guo frowned, looking solemn. Never mind, just go and take a look and you'll know. As long as it's a big fish. Garp was very excited and urged urgently. Although they have fought with Yuan. But it was obvious that he didn't think of Yuan at all at this moment. Who could have thought that the little devil who was almost beaten to death by them a few days ago could fight against Roger in the blink of an eye? Whoosh whoosh. The wind was still howling in the sky. The raging waves rolled and roared, carrying the pirate ship at risk of capsizing at any time. All the pirates on the ship were soaked by the rolling waves. They looked up at the figure who was slowly standing up with embarrassed and shocked expressions. Yuan! After a strong confrontation with Roger, it is still intact. Roger landed back on his pirate ship, his expression revealing a hint of satisfaction, and laughed. Ha ha ha, Brother Yuan, I look forward to our next fight. Let's stop here for today. The two of them ended up in a draw. The Marine fleet is getting closer and closer. There are already Marine fleets heading to both sides, and it seems that the pilots are trying to surround this place and not let any pirates escape. Okay, see you next time. Yuan's eyes were as bright as the stars in the cold night, and he smiled cheerfully. The young man holds a famous sword, full of vigor and vitality. Let's go! Roger greeted. See you again, Newgate, Yuan. Rayleigh smiled and waved. Roger's pirate ship quickly sailed out of the Marine encirclement. Yuan could see that Roger seemed reluctant to fight Marine. When Whitebeard saw Roger leaving, he immediately called out to the pirates. Boys, pack up your spoils and leave now. Wait. Yuan suddenly spoke up to stop Whitebeard. What do you want to do? The Marines have surrounded us. Whitebeard asked in surprise. If you don't leave now, you'll be in trouble if you're entangled by Marine. Yuan turned his head to look at the Marine ship approaching at high speed, and his perception and spiritual sense had already detected the two old friends. Of course he wouldn't leave. A gentleman seeks revenge every moment. Why miss such a good opportunity? You hit Lousy. Lousy will hit back if he has the strength. Newgate, why are we running away? Yuan turned his head and suddenly asked Whitebeard a question. Because, huh? Whitebeard was stunned and found that there was no way to answer this question. Why run away? Because we are pirates. But we are pirates, and we have to run away. Whitebeard's eyes widened, and he guessed what Yuan was thinking. So, I plan to stay and fight Marine. There was a gleam in Yuan's eyes, and his fighting spirit was even stronger than when he had just fought with Roger. Whitebeard stared at Yuan, as if he was meeting Yuan for the first time, or as if he was feeling Yuan's madness for the first time. But he remained rational and persuaded. Now is not the time to fight. Our mission has been completed. Besides, you have killed John. We should go back. I didn't say I wouldn't go back. I'll go back after I kill these Marines, Yuan said firmly. At this moment his mind was unshakable. You lunatic! Whitebeard cursed. If you're scared, you can go with them first, Yuan said with a smile. Gulalala! Afraid? Lousy has a white beard. Since you want to go crazy, Lousy will go crazy with you. Those two bastards Jean Gui and Garp probably didn't expect that we would stay here and wait for them, right? How could Whitebeard's arrogance run away? Yuan said it so clearly, if Whitebeard still retreats, he will no longer be called Whitebeard. Who doesn't have blood in his veins? Or maybe Whitebeard was stimulated by Yuan and wanted to do something to prove himself. In that case, let's go crazy together. Let those Marines see how powerful Lousy is. Okay. Then we'll just wait for Marine to die. Yuan embraced the way of samsara, with a blue flame on his waist, like a young general about to go to war, heroic and domineering. The surrounding pirates were all numb at this moment. Just say you won't leave? What do we do? They now looked at Yuan and Whitebeard as if they were two lunatics. Especially Yuan. He is the one who left the white beard. The Marine fleet approaches. Sengoku and Garp stood side by side. Looking at the tragic scene of broken walls and ruins, their hearts sank to the bottom of the valley in an instant. The rest are pirates. This means that the celestial dragons and marines have been completely wiped out. The two of them immediately became furious and were about to yell loudly. But he was interrupted by the young man holding the knife. Sengoku, Garp, you're too slow. Lousy has been waiting for you for a long time.